All right, well, we are live. So, again, you've probably heard this if you watch Mike. We wait a second so we can confirm people hear me and the people hear you.
I can hear you, Matt, and I know that you can hear me because we've been chatting, so I wonder if everybody hears me as well.
Should I have you unmuted? Yep. Everyone's saying, here they come in. Jamie says, oh my God, maybe Bob will come in. If you let him
Bob's
in,
been locked.
he'll probably wreck
He,
something.
yeah, he'll come in, he'll poop, he'll pee, and he'll be out.
Okay,
That's
everybody
that's what
says
Bob
good.
does. Good.
Everybody says good. All right, well, I guess I'll introduce you as Mike from Monkey Fab. We have him here today to answer questions and, you know, whatever else. So I guess I would say you summarize quick what you do, and then we'll jump into questions.
Yeah. So I have a website. It is monkeyfabgarage.com. That's monkeyfabgarage.com. monkeyfabgarage.com. And on that, we sell stuff to help you build your car. And it's a lot of fabrication stuff. That's kind of what I was always been interested in. So it was easy to start there and kind of grow the line from there. So it's, if you got a ship box car and you want to stuff a LS turbo swap in it, then we probably have some pieces that will help you accomplish your end goals.
Awesome. Well, I guess there's a bunch of good questions, so we'll
Should
dive
we
right
dive?
in.
Just dive right in. Well, first, I want to say thanks for having me on, Matt.
Sure.
And thanks for the Sloppy family. If it wasn't for you guys, I mean, honestly, everybody that calls me, every text I get is, I heard about you on Sloppy, this and that Sloppy. And I know for a fact that I wouldn't have, the business wouldn't be as strong as it is if it wasn't for the support from the community, as Ren called it, the Sloppy family. And I appreciate that. So it means a lot to me, my wife, and it helps me take care of other people and do stuff too. So it means a bunch. Appreciate it. Big thanks, all of you.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for doing what you do, and I obviously part of that is helping you keep your dogs healthy and your sheep.
That's right.
Your shipping department or whatever you call them.
Well, security and quality control.
So my first questions, I always like to I'm making them simpler and simpler, but I always like to ask what you already kind of answered. So it's how did you hear about sloppy mechanics?
Yeah, I don't know is the real answer. I was doing a giveaway, right, for a clock I'd made out of like some turbo looking thing. And I was just like trying to grow my website, my Facebook page. And it was like one of those old, comment, like, share deals. And Jamie won, right?
Yeah, I forgot all about that. That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah. Jamie being Jamie, her bright self would just, would chat and whatever. And I just kind of picked up. Like I was aware of what you were doing from like like the 1,000 yard kind of distance. Like I had awareness of LS1 tech way back in the day, and there was like, hey, there's this crazy person on LS1 tech, and I was like, well, I gotta check this crazy person out. And I was like, the crazy person seems a lot saner to me than some of the so-called sane people. So I was aware of you, but I wasn't aware of the Facebook page until I think the Jamie won that thing, and then I came over and I was, right at home. I fit in well there.
So the other thing, which we probably know the answer to also is do you think sloppy hurts or helps the car community because it's controversial, right?
Right? Yeah. Well, it kind of bifurcates. There's people in the community that just wants to post shock and awe, right? like like let me grab this flex core welder and just go to town and take photos. Then there's the mindset that I'm under, and I believe is kind of the the end goal is you don't have to break the bank to enjoy yourself and go, go fast and have fun. And you can do it economically, and do it safely. You don't have to, you don't have to go crazy is the point. And back in the day, I'm old. I'm 48 years old. When I grew up, we didn't have that access. The one thing we had was magazines, and that was gospel. Unless you happen to know somebody or were hanging out in the community with people that have been in the car community, your access to information was just those periodicals. And you didn't know, I didn't know they were just, ads. Just like here's a book of ads for you telling you how you need to buy our stuff, and how rods can't be more than this much grams or ounces off, and blah blah. And just a lot of it didn't make sense. So sloppy was a breath of fresh air. Used head bolts was a little bit of a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, I mean, I came from a standpoint where I didn't know any stupid or regurgitated car culture. So when someone would say something, I would do. You ever see the video of the preacher, and he's like, "Why?"
Right.
So someone would say something, and I'm like, "Why do you do that?" And they're like, "Oh, everybody does." And I'm like, "Okay, but why does everybody do it?" And then they would act pissed off, and I'm like, "Okay, so no one knows why you do it."
It's because we're primates, right? I mean, that's in our ancestry, is just to follow. We're not necessarily blazing any trails. And if you come at it with the ignorance, like, you have your own knowledge and your own set parameters of what you've learned in life, and why can't you use a bolt again?
Yeah, it's a bolt.
Yeah, it's a bolt. What about a head? Like, you're trying to tell me that because I torqued down my heads to take a measurement for like a push rod, and I took the head back off, that I need to put a new head gasket on?
Please. Especially I always say to people, I'm like, it's a piece of steel.
Please.
It's a piece of steel. Anyway.
There's always enough copper gasket spray.
Yeah.
That was a joke, kind of.
All right. Well, we'll go into. I'm not sure if Paul Fogel says, I'm not sure if Mike will see this, but if so, thank you for all the welding videos on YouTube. Also, the TIG starter kit you sell is perfect for the beginner like me. And finally, those practice bungs you sell are amazing. For some of us, the reason I really suck at TIGging in a tight radius circle, those cheap practice bungs are great to practice with. So
sure, yeah.
I figured I'd start with that.
You could thank the Chinese machinists who told me that they knew how to make NPT, National Pipes, NPT bungs, and they actually did not know how. So we got those at a low price, and I still got probably 20 or 30 of them, but we should hit that, Matt. I have a YouTube channel. It is called Monkey Fab Garage, I believe. You just go up to, don't do it now, but afterwards, go up to your little search in YouTube and type that in, and there's my channel. I wouldn't recommend anybody actually watch it. Like, Matt's offered, he's been kind enough to say, "Hey, Mike, I can share your channel," and I said, "No, it's horrible. I wouldn't want anybody to watch it. But, don't share it." However, if you go under the playlist, there is an entire playlist on how to TIG weld, and it's just got pretty much everything I know. As you can tell, I'm long-winded. I talk too much, but it's hard to condense down, years of TIG welding knowledge into a presentable format. So, if you suffer through those videos, you'll learn a lot if you're interested in TIG welding, and I'd highly recommend you go check them out.
Yeah, I was going to mention, because some of the questions, which we'll skip over now, were like, do you do YouTube, and do you have how-to videos and other things? So one of those things is, yeah, you sell practice kits. Yeah, you do YouTube videos. Yeah, people ask all the time, what welder, and you have videos showing pros, cons, and what welder you would buy if you're a beginner, because that's what everyone wants to know.
Yeah, I do that. So I try to give back. That's kind of ingrained in me from my time in the Army. Is like every once in a while you gotta stop and try to give. So, and I realize that I can buy it. Like, what works for me is what I've been doing is buying a machine. Like, it'll be like someone hits me up and says, "What about this machine?" So if I get enough of that, I just buy it, and then I can check it out for everybody, make some videos, and then raffle it off and give up whatever money was raised usually to military or some kind of good charity thing going on. And I don't want to pretend like I'm a super knowledgeable welder guy. I just weld what I weld, and I'm pretty good at welding what I weld, and that's what all that videos are about. So, there's tons of good welders on Sloppy. I've seen them.
Oh yeah, same thing I always say.
There are certified badasses on
Yeah.
Sloppy that I couldn't even compare to. I've seen Reiner's work. That dude's amazing, and there's just tons of people out there. So I'm not trying to be like I'm the expert dude. There's plenty of people who know way more than me.
I always like to say, is there anything Reiners can't do?
I would like to know. You see his 8 second. Well, it was like 8.5 today, right?
Yeah, 884, I think.
Dude's on fire.
With tailpipes and mufflers and filters and everything. With garbage Ford Econoline motor.
Did it have air conditioning?
I don't know. That would be even icing on the cake. That'd be such a slap in the face. I don't know if it does or not. I hope it doesn't. I don't think it does. Point out
some imperfection.
I think the turbos are where an AC pump would go. So.
I was surprised it was twins. I thought he'd go with the six just because of the way the intake was. And he's done a great job with that. It was beautiful too.
He had a single turbo before, but I think fitting it without ruining the engine bay was in his head. So he did smaller twins. But yeah, this is a good one. I would like to know this one too. Someone donated money, so I always ask them if they're live and they donate money. I ask their question no matter what it is. Does Mike have any plans to sell cheap Wiggins-style clamps, and what happened to the Monkey Fab Van Gen clamps?
So, excuse me. So I had those. Aluminum's a funny material. Some people, it honestly takes some practice and some time to get good with it. And the problems I was seeing with the ones that were going out that I was selling that I was replacing was it was like questionable. I think that I think the quality was okay, and I know a lot of people were upset that I quit selling those, but I was eating it so much from people just destroying them basically. And sometimes and I don't want to say like that is always the case. Sometimes they just like were crappy. Sometimes they would split, and I had some problems with it. And people that I know were good fabricators, and they called me up, and so I just pulled them. It was just easier not to sell them than. But I'm sure they're the exact same ones that everybody else sells on Amazon. So if you're really looking for those guys, go check over there. I will say personally, I don't know how you feel, Matt, but personally, I'm a big fan of silicone couplers. I do have video up where I took I made some billet beads. So basically, this guy sits on the end of you cut off your intercooler pipe. This guy sits in there, and then you just weld it on the inside, and it's a billet bead that's raised probably about a 1/4 inch.
It's like a collar.
It is.
It's a little lip.
And so what it does is once you weld it on there, it reinforces those pipes. So if you just have like a regular 16 gauge pipe that crushes as soon as you put your clamp on it, it's not going to do that anymore. It's going to be rigid. And then it also keeps the couplers from blowing off. I took it up to like 80 psi, didn't have a problem with it. And you don't have to be perfect with your fabrication. It gives you a little bit of wiggle room when you use those silicone couplers. So that's why I'm a fan of them.
Yeah, I'm not a bit. I think they're too expensive. Those style clamps, and same thing. Once I get couplers, maybe every now and then you'll forget to tighten one in the beginning, but once they're on, they're on. I don't even run blow off valves, and they never come off once you get them sorted.
But you have to run a blow off valve if you want to hook a rubber chicken up to it.
Yeah,
it doesn't work on the wastegate.
Well, the first one, I guess we'll go to another. Well, how did Michael turn this from a hobby into a business?
Oh. These are going to be long, Matt, so I apologize. So I was in the Army. I did like 25 years.
Oh, why'd I do that, guys? Why do I do that?
Okay. So you muted yourself. Okay.
I did that. Okay. No, I disconnect.
It messed me up.
I go to hit mute and I disconnect.
All I see is a huge picture of myself on the screen.
I'm retarded. Luckily, I can
it
just
was
rejoin.
terrifying. So apologies to anybody out there looking at this mug. So yeah, I was in the Army and I was getting ready to get out, and it was I never really took the time to knock out a degree. So I didn't really have. I mean, I got plenty of college, but nothing really that adds up as anything you can show somebody. Um, and I just wasn't really enjoy like the jobs that were out there wasn't really interesting. So I just said like, you know, you're either going to be a janitor or you're going to have to figure something out. And I've been a janitor for 25 years, so I figure we'll try something different. Um, I got some equipment. It's just stuff like we all do, you know. Yeah, every once in a while you got something big you want, and you just get crazy, throw it on a credit card. And I had some machines. I was on Facebook, and I was posting stuff. You know, just here's what I'm doing. You know, I'm doing this, and some people would like contact me and say, hey, you know, I see you have this machine, or you can weld, or what can you make me this? And I just started realizing that I can, you know, I can do this. I can sell somebody an exhaust ring, you know, that's no big deal, or make a turbo collector. And so I just started doing that as like a side hustle, kind of like when you started selling your t-shirts before you had the Shopify store. It was just, you know, kind of willing and dealing. Really hard to do, to keep up with a million different DMs and text messages and all that stuff. So I finally got the website, and I did the website just because I couldn't keep up with the the all the messages and the orders and this and that. Um, so we got the website to handle that, and then the website has just steadily grown. So, and with all the growth, we just you know, try to add more product, build the store bigger. I don't I don't live well. I'm, you know, I'm an Army guy. I'm happy. You know, you throw me out in the dirt, as long as I got a tent, I'm pretty happy. Air conditioning is really nice. So I never should have had it this good. I'm pretty happy. So everything we do, we just try to put it back into the business, is kind of the gist of it. Does that kind
Awesome.
of answer that
Oh yeah,
question?
that wasn't too long at all. So
Okay, I could have went on forever. So I edited a bunch of stuff out, but
that
yeah.
was a perfect short answer. So
Okay.
Zach Smith has a bunch of questions. He has three. Should I fire them all at once or one at a
Yes,
time?
let's do it. We'll see how good my short term memory is.
It says, "Is Bob quality control or engineering?"
Okay,
And
that
then,
was just two.
how many years of welding experience do you and Bob have combined?
Okay, Bob is marketing, so not quality control or engineering, and I'd say about 9 or 10 years of welding. Not full time. I really, when I got out of the military like 2015, and it got pretty busy, and we were like literally welding every day from around then on. It's about 5 years. And now when we say experience, I have, you know, 5 years of experience doing you know, car stuff, like flanges and tubings and stuff like that. It's only in that area. And I don't even really do a lot of aluminum. I tried to make some aluminum products. They just never really kicked off. Maybe it's because I suck at aluminum welding, and I'll never get better aluminum welding since I don't ever do it.
And then his last question was, what is Bob's preferred tungsten?
Oh, okay. Well, it's always 2% lanthanated. And so how I learned to weld, I think that was probably coming or something, was just by doing all YouTube videos. I learned from watching, who's our homie? It's like Jamie from Welding Tips and Tricks, Jody over at Welding Tips and Tricks.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
just I just ate those videos up, man. Back in the day when, you know, YouTube was young, and would just watch the videos and then go out in the garage. You know, what the hard part was getting metal, and that's what having, you know, social media came in around that time, and that's where I was able to kind of utilize that to get people to buy my metal to practice with. So I just tell them like, hey man, I suck, but I can make your thing, you know, and they'd be like, oh, as long as it's dirt cheap, I don't really care. So it worked out for both. They'd pay for the metal, and I would just, weld, and I'd have at least something to weld. It'd be something usually challenging because people throw at you all kinds of crazy ideas. So that's how I took. Didn't have a lot of money. I got divorced at like 40 and started all over again. So we were and the wife is from Thailand, and she wasn't working at the time, so it was just me working. One dude in the army. So yeah, it was tight. Things were tight, but you can do it, and that's how I did it. Was just basically persuading other people to pay for my practice metal.
Well, we'll go to a ask him about his love for Volvo wagons.
Was that Justin?
Yes.
You saw his exhaust ring I sent you.
Yep.
Yeah, I want to post that on Facebook, but I don't want to spoil his surprise. Yeah, I love Volvos. Actually, I found out yesterday that there's a Volvo called a V70R, which is an all-wheel drive. It's a Haldex, and I don't know if it's a 4-cylinder or a 5-cylinder, but it's a wagon, and I just love station wagons. I have a thing, and it's supposed to be like 300 brake horsepower. Not bad. They made them and you can pick up one for around 13,000. I think they made them in the mid 90s. I want to say, but I could be completely off. I just watched this video yesterday and said, "Oh," and I went and looked at him, and I took out the credit card, but we didn't buy one. Yeah, we got a 940. I had a 240 that went to a friend because we needed the storage area that it was taking up, and I have a 940 93 wagon that's just mint, and it is getting 6-liter, so it'll be ported LS3 heads, like a sloppy stage 2 cam, 4L80E, and yeah, that's about it. Just running in naturally aspirated on that.
All the fancy.
And then we got the Phoenix is up here right now.
Oh, nice.
It never moves off of there. But we're getting close. We're getting close. I like when you work on your cars, Max. It motivates me to get my own shit done.
I think everybody, that's like my most common compliment or thing that people say. So that's...
It's a curse, Matt. You have to bear this burden.
I can't... It's like a thing in my head that's like, do this, do this, do this. It's like Tourette's. Like, the more someone ignores it, the worse it happens. So
yes,
I think that's what happens to me is I'm like, and then I'm like, okay, I'm going outside. I'm going out there right now. So
yes, I'm kind of like that with work. I just have to work. If I'm awake, I'm working.
So Joey Faller says, what's your favorite thing about running Monkey Fab?
Joey sent me a great PM the other day, Joey, and I didn't reply back to you. I'm sorry, because I went to the website, and so he sent me this link for like a $300 papper. It was really supposed to be a lot more than $300, but by the time I got there, they were all sold out. So I appreciate that. Good looking out, Joey. And he also buys stuff for me, so I appreciate that too. And he makes a great product, right?
Yep, all of the above. He's a good guy too.
His new manifold is right next to me, within walking distance, and that's a nice piece. Have you seen the cast?
Yep.
Yeah, nice.
The U.S. cast one, or
yes,
or the U.S. finished one, or whatever it is.
That is some of that was the nicest cast stainless steel I've seen.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. He showed me pictures of that too. Maybe we're airing something we're not supposed to right now.
we're gonna hunt down his supplier.
Well, what'll happen is people will
I just want to know who's making it so I can make me stuff too.
People will just be more interested in it because they can't get it, so it doesn't matter.
Go over to Fowler. Was it Fowler Speed?
Yep, FSP.
FSP.
Fowler Speed and Performance. Yep.
Check them out. Now, what was the question? I'm sorry.
Oh, it was he asked what your favorite thing about running Monkey Fab is.
I like, it's gonna sound weird, but I like helping people. I like when I get that phone call and they're trying to figure stuff out, and it's just kind of, I'm not good on the phone. It's like the like your friend Jake said from Jake's Performance. You know, us Army guys aren't necessarily great with people, um, but once you pull that back, then you know you realize we're trying to help, and it's always fun to talk to people, hear about just hear about somebody's project, what they're doing. It kind of sidetracks me because I'll end up chatting with someone for like 20 minutes and I got a pile of work I got to get through before the day's over and the post office is closed, and I really enjoy that. So I just enjoy talking to people.
Uh, this Tom Connor says, "How the heck do you ship so fast?"
I get everything done. Well, I've been lucky in the fact that the growth of the business hasn't been too exponential, and I've been able to keep up, which terrifies me about being on YouTube with you, because I'm afraid people are over on the website just boom, boom. So we're at max capacity, guys.
Is there a
Don't turn
direct correlation to when I
don't
upload
turn
a
it up.
video showing your
Yes.
fab pieces to
Oh,
spike in
absolutely.
traffic on the website?
Absolutely. It
That's
is
funny.
it is oh, it can be like devastating at times. Like I'll just be like, what the hell is going on? And then I'll look on my YouTube and I'm like, oh, Matt, just posted a video, and it is uh I would I know what you do for me, Matt. I'd like to see what happens with Holly. Like what's a Holly bump look like?
It has at times my rep has told me web statistics like when we did the giveaway and other things, and yeah, so and then yeah, it does it creates
Yeah.
a tsunami for lots of products. I mean, I think it's funny and I'd like to discount it, but like my friend was just saying, he's like, "Where do I get a sloppy stage 2? It seems like I can't get one." And I'm like, honestly, there's too many copies and no reputable places I know of to buy it. So I would buy a Summit stage 2. And he just told me, he's like, they're sold out. And he's like, why'd you have to tell everybody? And I'm sorry. And I said, sloppy tax. Not sometimes stuff goes up in cost and sometimes it gets sold out or sometimes both happens. So
That's why it took me so long to get you that fuel hose, is I was completely out. That was like the stimulus check time, and
everyone bought
that
everything.
everybody bought everything, and it was just really, it's been really tough. The last year was really hard to keep everything in throughout the whole pandemic thing or whatever, and this year's been challenging as well. So, and I've noticed like everything's missing.
Yep.
There's weird little shit that. So I got uh, a new truck because I wrecked the old Dodge truck, unfortunately. But we got a F-150. I got just a base model truck, and it didn't come with a bed liner, so I'm gonna put a bed liner in this thing. So I'm like, I'll go down to O'Reilly's or whatever, pick up some degreaser just to wipe this thing down before we shoot this stuff. No degreaser. There's not a place in town that has degreaser. That masking tape with the plastic attached to it that everybody uses. No, not Lowe's, not Home Depot. It's like, wow, things are just kind of missing. It's weird.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to. I could
It,
elaborate on a bunch of stuff, but it's
it,
more about you answering questions.
yeah, it's scary. I'll put it that way.
I can hear Jamie yelling at me already before I want to say something, so I
Yeah,
stop.
I don't want to crack any conspiracies. I'm just saying that it's odd.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Uh, Vince says, "What is the most trick product you make that we can't go without, or that you see people buying or commenting on the most?" You know.
Well, so the collectors I make, I think, help people out just
Oh
because
yeah, you're like one of the
they're
only people that does that, in my opinion.
yeah. One of my it was funny. Like when I first started, one of my friends on Facebook, his name was Jordan, was like, "You should make those," and I was like, "I don't want to make these. These suck." And he's like, "That's why you should make them," and he was 100% right. And another crazy credit card purchase. I went down. I found a guy I was in Missouri at the time, and I found a dude that would cut my flanges for me, and I just took out like a whole credit card. And he's like, I can't take credit card. And when they send you the credit card, they give you those like fake checks. So I was like, well, I got a check, dog. Will that work? It's a Visa check. And he's like, Yeah. So we just max a credit card out. He water jets me a full plate of 1/2 inch stainless, and it was, I think it was like 6 or 8 grand, and it's all done. The transaction's done. I drive to this place. I drive from Kansas City, go pick it up in my truck, and I put it in my garage, and I have 20 boxes full of metal flanges, and I'm just like, holy crap, what did you just do? This was so dumb. Like,
The
and I just
realization hit you like, I hope all this
yeah,
goes
and I
away.
just like put it up on like Facebook of like, hey homies, I got turbo flanges. uh yeah, so to move some of those, I started making the other flanges, and those have been real popular just because uh some of those welding spots are hard to get. Some of the transformations from round to oval shape and all this stuff is kind of difficult for people, and I just it's simple for me. We get it done and get it out to you at a we do it in quantities, so we have scale of economy to make it more cost effective, and hopefully I think that the customers see it as good value, because when they get it, I usually don't hear many gripes.
It says, Sean asks, what's your military experience and how might it help in your hobby and life?
I was in the medical corps. So I started as an optician. That's the dude that makes like glasses, cutting glass, polishing glass. I became a medic later on. I was mostly in infantry divisions, 6th ID back when there was those guys, 82nd at Fort Bragg, um, and the 18th Airborne Corps. I was in 44th. Just these units. I think that it's, let's see, how does it help you? Well, it teaches you logistics. I learned a ton about logistics management in the military, because as you kind of go up, you have to manage all your personnel, and then everything that they need to do their job in all the space and area to do it in. So I would say most of my career was in logistics, just planning, writing plans, operations, stuff like that.
So they asked, like, how does that help you with the business? But that makes sense because you have products and you have to get them in and out. So,
Yeah, it's basically just the logistics. It's being able to keep a tally of what you have, what you need, how long stuff lasts, when you need to get stuff ordered, understanding how long the shipment process is, and I mean, all that stuff has to land, in the perfect time. If it doesn't, then we get too much crap, don't have any place to put stuff, or we run out of crap and don't have anything to sell. So it helps.
here, Varen says, can you donate Bob? I am
Ah,
looking for hardworking sheep.
I bet times are hard for Vren right now. Yeah, what a great guy Vren is. I saw him when he was on with you, and he's kind of like a mentor to me. I don't think he knows it, but I really look up to him, and how he handles himself, and does his business. I think he sets a good example, and I appreciate having him around. And he also throws me some business too, so I appreciate that too, Varen.
Yeah,
And he just sent me a turbo.
that's what he
Yeah,
does to me. I'm like, bro.
I had the 68 or the 96, 75, 78 on the Phoenix, and it was starting to choke it out a little bit around, like, and I had a 3-inch exhaust, so that didn't help, and it was like and a full exhaust at that, so it was getting choked about 600, 650ish, and so I was like, well, I can put one of those big housings on there, and that'll probably be cheap. So I sent Vern a text message and like, hey, can I just get the housing? Will that fit on this thing? And he's like, oh yeah. And it shows up, and I'm like, there's a whole turbo here.
You made a mistake, buddy.
It's like, oh yeah. So I appreciate that. It is on the car, and hopefully it'll be running within the next month or so. Here's what I did: is I gave up on the wire. I told you earlier I hate the wiring. I gave up on the wiring. I hired a friend to do it, because I'm just like, I'm never going to get this done. So I'm just going to pay somebody that enjoys it and is smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can do it, but I honestly don't enjoy it also. But I mean, ugh. That's why anymore I won't. If I can buy a harness, I buy it. That's why I did the plug and play stuff that I do. Because again, like you said, it helps people, and they're like, I noticed that everyone's like, I don't want to do this. How do I do it? And I'm like, well, maybe I should do this. And Arnie's like, do this now. So I
Yeah.
did, and that has gone well, obviously.
Yeah. I got one. It's going in the car. I
Yep.
do have to relocate my what do you call it, sensor, the flex fuel sensor.
Oh, is it all the way
But
in the back?
it was all the way in the back, but that's no big deal. I was redoing everything anyway. Everything.
And I think you touched on this a little bit. It says, Mark asks, is Monkey Fab your full-time job? If not, what else do you do for a job?
Now I do this full time. I started part time. It was very part time. Like I said, I worked. I did this while I was a first sergeant in the army. So if anybody's been in the military, they know that job entails. That's like an easy 12-hour day at minimum. But yeah, now we're we're operating at or near capacity. We need to find a bigger place. Is kind of what we're at.
Dustin asks, urinal or bathroom stall? Do you have urinal anxiety?
No, no, we had to do the drug test in the military a lot.
I was gonna say you're out of the
Imagine that.
military, so
I got drug tested a lot for some reason. So yeah, no stage frights.
uh this one says, what Dale asks, what gas flow plus cup size do you prefer when welding aluminum or stainless?
Yeah. So they're two vastly different things and need to be welded in very different ways. And I have a video on that. I think it's called like aluminum TIG welding or something like that. But your stainless and your stills generally like to have a large shielding area and a lot of gas flow. In aluminum, kind of is the opposite. You only need enough gas to shield your arc area. So on all steel, I'll either run a number 12 or 16 cup at about 30 on the CFH. And you don't need to. You could use like a number 8 at like 20, 25. Just find out what you need. But I do that because I have to have decent looking products. So we just flood it. Argon's cheap and it's easy to do. Whereas with aluminum, you're going to want like a smaller orifice, like a number 5, and you'll want to turn your argon down. As you turn it down, that when you weld aluminum on the outsides of your weld, where your little shiny dime stacks are, you get this hazy, like grayish area. That's the call it the heat affected zone. But it's really cathodic edging. It has to do with how the little magic pixies dance around in this area of gas that they're allowed to move in. And by reducing that shielding area down, you can narrow that band and kind of tune some of that gray out. So you just have more shiny, but it's a balance in that. And that also has to do with your AC balance.
All right. This is interesting. Like,
so it's funny with the welding. It's almost its own language, and it's like suddenly you just start speaking a foreign language, and everybody else is like, I don't know what you're talking about.
yeah. Well, similarly, like you can see people's eyes glaze over. So when people ask me tuning questions, and I start talking, or like Jamie calls it, knowledge bombing, and they change their expression changes, and I'm like, okay,
Right.
we're
Like
gonna move on.
drinking from the fire hydrant. Just I was wondering.
Yeah, they're like, holy shit. Okay, I don't care anymore. I'm like, I get it, no problem. I
That's
say
like
it all the time. Like when someone's
right.
going over my head, I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm 3. I'm 3 years old. Slow it way down.
Right. It's like when people say they're a car guy. It's like, oh, you're a car. Like how much of a car guy? You know.
On a scale of
You know,
1 to 10,
like, could you tell me how to calculate the ring gap on your piston? Kind of car guy, or do you just like the coolest new Dodge? You know, I have nothing against that. Like I'm a gun guy, in that sense. Like I know guns, you pull the trigger and they go bang. I don't know a whole lot more than that, but I love guns. But there's a difference there,
Of
right?
course. Yeah. That's what people say, like, oh, you're into cars. And I'm like, I try
No.
to use the word, I'm an extreme hobbyist, because that's what you would assume for somebody that has, because there's people who like cars and they park a lot of cars and they have stock Lambos and whatever. Obviously, like you said, that's fine. But then there's people that do like what I do.
Well, you're not even really. I mean, the car is just a vehicle for your, chasing this engineering piece, really.
Yeah. Also, I
All,
guess you could
what
say
I
that.
mean, the way I get from you is that you're. I think it's cool when you go out and do a burnout. Like, especially when you got a friend and they're driving, because that's hilarious. You see them like light up and you chuckling and knowing that you just blew their mind. But mostly what I get is the data. Like, wow, look at the data I got. I see you most excited, when you're talking about something went weird on the dyno and I got this and doesn't, I don't know why. And do you guys know why?
Yeah.
I see
I'm
you get
not
excited
afraid
about that,
to, I'm like, I don't know. Tell me, guys.
right?
Well, that's what Ortiz always says. Someone else just said it too. Stereo Slider. He goes, car enthusiasts are not necessarily car guys. So morons he calls enthusiasts because they want to be about cars and they don't know anything. There's a difference between you like cars and a car enthusiast likes to try and play off that they know a lot when they don't, and that it's all. I want him to make a tier of like 5, like a flow chart.
Yes, that would work.
That would be nice.
Yes, I am a car enthusiast +2 or whatever. That way we know. Oh, okay, +5. Okay,
Like what are the
like
classes in the
Yoda
military?
shit.
E1, E2,
Yeah, like you're
E3
doing
or whatever.
grades or just
Private.
some kind of grade.
So this is a good one. It says, "What would you do with a gift of $250,000?"
I'd probably pay off I have a house that I need to move. I found a place, can't afford it. The bank laughs at me because they're like, you already got 2 mortgages on, so I have to get rid of one. So I would for sure probably pay that place off so I could get a bigger place to move move the business to. Nothing really exciting. I have no cars that I buy because I have a pile of cars that it's already too many. It's already probably annoys the neighbors, and I'm lucky enough to have the tools that I want.
That's a very responsible goal. Or what you would
I'd
do
like
with
to
the
get a
money.
CNC machine. So
Well, you could, some of them cost more than that. So,
yeah, the ones you want cost more than that. I guess the Haas's are pretty easy to get a hold of.
yeah, that's what Arnie has, a bunch of Haas machines.
Yeah, once you get one, you kept up with your lease, then they'll start throwing you additional machines. So you can kind of he's using that for his gun manufacturing. But what is he doing? Like uppers, lowers?
I think it's lowers from the
Yeah.
videos I've seen. And then also, he posted a video not that long ago, either on one of his medias, I don't know. And whoever does the machining tooling that sells them like bits, they installed like a snack machine device. Where if you break a bit, you can pay for a bit, and it spits it out like a Snickers bar, and they restock it. It's incredible. Like it's a real thing. It's not a joke at all. It's a
Where's this
Snickers
at?
machine
Where,
that spits.
what state is he in? He's in Pennsylvania.
Chicago, Illinois.
Chicago. He's in Illinois. Wow,
How funny is that? A bit
that's
snack
hilarious.
cabinet. Yeah. Oh,
Yes.
ProCharge Mopar donated $4.99. He says, "I just ordered 2 Monkey Fab T-shirts, but no hurry. I'm on vacation."
Yeah, I need to restock the t-shirts. That's one of the one things that I care the least about and just don't watch. I know I'm out of like every size and every color.
It's tough. It's tough
It's
because they're out of shirts. We had trouble getting shirts and things because apparently shirts don't exist either.
well, when you stop making shit, you don't have shit. It's
Yeah.
just one of those crazy
All
ass
the
things.
businesses close,
I
nothing gets made. Imagine that.
don't know. You'd think that it wouldn't take an economist to figure that kind of shit out.
Here's a
But
good one. It says, what does Mike do outside of fab work and cars that maybe not many people know about, hobbies or interests that nobody would really guess that you're interested in?
sure, I do guns, probably more than I should, and jujitsu. I go to jujitsu usually 4 hours a week. When I'm not well, it's been a couple months now. We've been so busy, but when we're not slammed, I do like to go roll. Those are my
Nice.
interests.
Uh,
And like most car guys, I got my own project. That's how I come with a lot of my ideas is just working on. I have a so anybody doesn't know, I have a '78 Pontiac Phoenix. It's got a VS Racing 78, 75, and 5.3, the Summit Stage 2 cam, ported and polished 243, not ported, just ported 243s, 660s. Yeah, so that's my air conditioning. It's got air conditioning.
oh, yeah, yeah. That's a
Yeah,
big one for Texas.
air conditioning. Yeah, you can literally die here in the summer. Get stuck in traffic, it's just over.
There's a Joe Simpson asked a good question, and I had him on like episode 2 or 3 or something. I can't
Mm-hmm.
remember. And it says, "Do you spend more money on argon per month than your mortgage alone?" That cost alone was one of the reasons why I slowed down so much on fabricating.
Wow. Yeah, I wish I was that. I'm nowhere near that busy. Um, Now my argon, I get it cheap, and I could get it cheaper if I really wanted to push for it. So it's just it's funny. Like I was with so I'll dime these guys out because they earned it. I was with Air Gas for like a decade, and I was just a loyal customer to them, and they were basically charging me like 120 a bottle. Uh, so I know that that's like ridiculously high. So one day I go in there and I was just like, "Hey, dog, can I get this cheaper? It would be nice to pay less, for these 3 bottles." It's like, and the guy basically says to me, "Well, if you'd like it cheaper, you probably should go elsewhere." Yeah. So I did. I went to Praxair and they sold it to me for half. So, but yeah, I mean, you got to check your loyalties, make sure you're getting the best value every once in a while. Uh, so we got rid of air gas and with Praxair, and it's like I know it's still there, and it's okay. But I understand businesses like people need to make money off of me, so they can stay in business when I need their stuff, so I can build my stuff. It's not a fight. It's cooperation.
So people were asking a bunch of questions revolve around Bob. It says,
Yeah,
"What is the story about having a sheep for a pet?"
the story of Bob. I should do a YouTube video. Maybe I'll tell it now, and I'll clip this out of your shit and put it on my channel.
Yeah, I'll send you just the video clip of you explaining about
We need
Bob. I'll
we
mute
need some
myself so it's just
we need
you.
some string music to kind of intro it, like
Yeah, I can do that. I'll
like
just let me know
what's
what music you would like and I'll do it all.
something like Robin Hood esque,
Okay.
the cartoon, not the movie,
Yes.
not Men in Tights.
Well, go ahead. Start on your
Oh,
Bob
okay.
rant. I'm going to
Oh, we're gonna
mute.
play. Oh, in the background, that would be hot. That would be
Yep.
lit, Matt.
Yep, I'll do it. I'll take just figure
Yeah.
out.
So the neighbors. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. The story of Bob. This is the story of Bob and Monkey Fab Garage. Hi, everybody. This is Mike, Monkey Fab Garage. So, the neighbor moved out, and we got new neighbors. And the new neighbors are like, "We got a sheep." I live in suburbia, basically. I mean, they're half-acre lots, so they're kind of big lots, but it's basically just rows of houses. So and I'm a city guy. Like I grew up in California. Don't hold against me. I live in Texas by choice. I was just in California by default. Yeah. So they show up with a sheep, and I walk by. I have 2 pit bulls, so I have a red nose pit bull and a blue nose pit bull, and I walk them every day. That's how we start every day off. And this poor sheep was just kind of, I mean, it's kind of locked in this cage in the backyard, and he's like really, well, you guys see him. Has an unusual personality. So so I asked him, I said, like, can I take him for a walk with the dogs? And they're like, yeah, do whatever. So in the morning, I go get Bob, the sheep, and walk him with the dogs. And we'd walk a couple miles. And then I put him back. This is their neighbor's, it's a 4-H project for their kid. That's why they have him. And the end goal is that they're going to, auction them off. And it's like, okay, well, I get that. Future farmers, good on you, whatever. So Bob's time with him comes to an end. It's like, hey, Bob's going to auction. I go over, say my goodbyes to Bob, and wish him the best of luck in his newest job as a shish kebab or some kind of Greek food, and go on my way. A day passes, or maybe 2 days, I'm not sure, and Bob shows up back next to the door. I'm like, what the heck? What gives with Bob? And they're like, yeah, I guess at these school things, what they do is they just bid on the animal, and that way they get the tax write-off, and they donate the animal back to the kids, because kids don't want to see their animal get murdered or whatever. So yeah, that's what they did. They donated them back, but they didn't want them, so they're like, yeah, we're gonna take them to some other auction. So I asked the viewers, and I said, like, let me know what you guys want. We can rescue Bob, and he can hang out here, or send him on his way. And the response was overwhelmingly that you should rescue Bob. Now, mind you, Bob was just like a puppy, right? I mean, maybe 100 pounds. And I'm like, and I'm like, what do I know about sheep? I'm like, it can't get any bigger than this. Look how big he is. He's already like towering over the pit bull. So, like, how big can sheep get? Well, apparently about 250, 300 pounds is the answer, because he is massive. And yeah, he just hangs out. They're relatively low maintenance. He is not a pet. I wouldn't recommend anybody go out there and get a sheep as a pet. You have to take care of them. You have to feed them. They have to have room to graze. You got to share them. You have to deworm them. There's certain medicines they have to get. If their hooves grow too long, you have to shave their hooves down. So, and then they just shit and piss off over everything. They have no understanding that this is happening. So, like, I'll be welding, and Bob will walk in and bump into me, and I'll be like, oh, okay, there's Bob, and be hanging out. And they also chew their cud like cows do. So they'll go eat grass and then they'll throw it up and just sit there. So he'll lay down next to you on welding. It's just like either he's chewing cud or he just drops deuce in the shop and walks off. And yeah, so it's a love-hate relationship.
That's
I think,
incredible.
yeah, I think that about sums it up. He's gonna mow it. It's taken a couple of years to get that thing out there, nice and fluffy. But yeah, yeah, Bob is. It's interesting. The wife is a gardener, so this is like a constant struggle between Bob eating all the plants and her, and yeah, I don't know what all to say about Bob.
Does she headbutt Bob when he misbehaves?
So Bob will headbutt you, like rams do the
That was
ram.
another question. Yeah, I
Yeah,
know he has to do it because they all
right,
do. That was my
but
first experience with a goat when I was like really little, and my friend had a farm. I'm like, hey guys, look at and I just got hammered by the goat because I wasn't looking at it, and it just railed me, and I feel like I get hit by. I was little, and
right,
I think I was in kindergarten, and I just got wailed by this goat, and I'm like, I'll never do that again.
yeah, exactly. Well, he'll come at you. I mean, he's 300 pounds, so you can't miss him, and he's not exactly fast. So he's like coming at you and puts his head down, and you can just kind of lift your leg, and he'll go underneath you, because once he's down, he doesn't really see.
Ah,
So I just kind of lift my leg, and he walks underneath me, and he's on his way. But one day the Volvo. You always have one tire that you should fix, but you just keep putting air in it. And I had that in the back, so I was down in the shop here, and I had the air hose on it, and I did not see his ass, and he he just wrecked me, dude. He hit me from the side in the shoulder. And I swear to God, it felt like I was tackled by a linebacker from a pro team. My back was out, my neck was out of whack. So I'm running after him with the air hose, whacking his ass, and he's screaming and running as fast as he can the other way until I ran out of air hose. And I think you got a chuckle out of that too. He's a devious little bastard.
Yeah, I know he's not like you said, he's not a pet. Like you show him he's coming in the door or something, and you're like, Bob, go outside. He just comes. He's like, there's no telling him what to do.
Yeah, no, there. So as a city person, what you do is you think that all animals are this, like all animals must be like cats and dogs.
Yeah, they're
It
afraid
makes
of
sense.
you if you go rah.
Well, I mean, in the sense that the intelligence level. So if you think of an animal, then you're like, oh, well, that goat must be as intelligent as a cat or a dog or what. Uh, Bob is not smart. Bob will lay there and pee on himself. You know, these things are, and you realize that like, oh, you know, these are not quite the same as other animals. So, he's not the brightest animal, but he can be very smart about the things that interest him,
Hmm.
like all of us, I guess. So he's very sneaky and break it. The backyard is all fenced off. There's two gates and two doors to get into there. He knows all points of entry, and he'll come in the shop and probe. He'll like walk and see if the door's open, walk see if the other door's open, or and he sneaks in the back all the time. Then the wife catches him, and I'm in trouble, right? Because he's like, it's like the zombie apocalypse. He's eating everything in sight, which is her food.
There's a I don't know what this necessarily means, but I'll ask it. It's from Jason, and he says, "What is your favorite build, and what is your worst mistake?" So I don't know if he means your favorite build or mine. I don't know. Maybe answer
uh,
both if you can.
yeah, yeah. I had a back like 2005. I got a Honda SI, a 90 hatchback, and I love that car. It was great. I did a B16 swap with a little 2871 GT turbo, uh,
Disco
and that was
potato.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was a great little. I mean, it was just a go kart. It was so fast and so fun. And to this day, when you ask me what car I regret, and I've had a lot of nice cars, but that little Honda Civic is the one that I'm like, damn, I missed that car. I knew every nut and bolt on it. It's one of those cars you take fully apart. Everything. When you hear a sound, you know exactly what that sound is, kind of car, right?
Yeah, I built a
I don't
92
think you keep
bubble.
projects long enough to understand that.
No, I don't have a attachment, so I'll just comment that I always wanted to build a Turbo Civic, and then that one time I did, I built that D series single slammer with an eBay kit, and man, that was so much fun. It cost like $50 to build that car, and it
Right,
made it made 303 to the tire, and wow, that was so much fun. Like it was reliable, and it got 44 miles to the gallon on the highway,
right.
and you could just slam it off the rev limiter all day, and it didn't care at all.
Right. That's what I loved about that thing is, well, I was into cars a lot. I grew up in the car. I was in the cars. I was in the Volkswagens back then. This is 1990 or 80s, late 80s, and the scene was lowered Volkswagen Bugs. With that back axles that looked like the axles broken, and yeah, I was into those for a long time. And I got my tools stolen one day when I was young, and like all your money, you take so much time to build up all the specialty tools, to for crank, something for the crank or this or that. And when those tools got stolen, I was just done, and I didn't touch cars for probably a decade. And then I realized, like, hey, I missed this. And when I got back into it, just like I think Fast and Furious had just come out or around there, and like everybody was in the Hondas, and it was just like I looked at Chevys, but they were all super expensive, like all the ones that would interest you. And the Hondas were a dime a dozen, and the parts were like Lincoln logs; they just snapped together. So it was like kind of a no brainer. They hit a magic with that platform for those 3 years. That 90 to probably 2000 chassis.
Yeah, they're awesome. I mean, now I don't know what they cost or how many survived.
I saw on Sloppy some dude was asking about a element, and I just want everybody to know that there is an all-wheel drive manual element if you go to Auto Tempest right now. So I don't know what's all involved, but I don't think it would take much to just put a K in that thing.
They have Ks in them.
Well, I mean, I just put a turbo on that K
Oh, super
motor.
easy.
Yeah,
There's like K
I think
tuner and
maybe
everything else.
change out the oil. I think the pumps are kind of sketch on those, but yeah, you'd have an all-wheel drive element. I saw someone on Sloppy talking about elements.
Oh, Mark says there's 5 for sale, I guess. But
Well,
yeah,
this was a manual.
yeah. I mean, I remember when those came out. I bought a '03 Civic Si, and you could get the Element in all those trims, and I kind of regret not buying one. I probably still have it this day.
We bought one just for like my spouse's car, and she loved it. I mean, it was a great car, very utilitarian. I mean, almost like the Kia, and you probably could have boosted
Yeah.
it. So what's up with the Kia? You ever get that thing going, man?
Well, it's like partially done, but I'm working on the Mustang and the Mark II so much that I don't want to disable another
Okay.
vehicle.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
my biggest thing is we don't really like to take apart more than one at a time. So actually, when we worked on the Jetta, I just kicked my Mustang outside the whole time. So,
yeah. Right.
but yeah, I have the turbo for I have a manifold, the turbo, the intercooler, all sorts of other stuff, and the motor is just getting more tired by the day. And it's nice to have it as a beater. I call it like an airport car. You can take it anywhere and people can hit it, door ding it. You wouldn't even notice. So it's nice to have that, but I do want to hang the turbo on it. And because I mean, it would be such a wasted effort for Joey and my buddy Whack Shack that did the port injection stuff. I'm not going to just let all that go to waste. So I'm going to do it. And I bet either the motor doesn't survive or I burn the clutch immediately or something. So yeah, I'm just waiting for the
You're in
opportunity to.
control of the fuel with a microskirt.
It has a gold box in it, and I
Gold
even
box.
have a prototype drive-by-wire setup that's also Mega Squirt on it too. And then the other question was, what is your worst mistake?
In life.
I
I'm
don't
not
know
going to
what that
discuss that
means.
here on Sloppy.
I would say fat, because he asked what was your
I'm not going to
favorite.
admit to it. It's probably
No.
a felony, and I'm not going to discuss it here. I have. I
I
cannot
guess he means for
confirm
a
nor deny.
project.
I fuck up all the time, man. I'm always amazed that like the customers keep coming back. I had a guy call me today, and he's like, Mike, I ordered 8 of these, and you only sent me one, and I'm like, I'm sorry, bro. You know, I'm a blind welder. It's not exactly easy seeing these. So I've actually started doing my orders with my reading glasses on my head and a highlighter because I mess stuff up probably way more than I should. And the guys are always like super kind about that. You know, like, hey, Mike, you sent me X and I should have had Z, and we get all straightened out for him. But no, it was funny is when you work for yourself. So there's no way to deny you made a mistake. You know, when you're confronted with like, hey, like I ordered a -8 bung and you sent me a -10 bung and here it is, and you're like, well, yeah, I did do that, and you're like not used to seeing all your mistakes, but that's been humbling. I think just when you're seeing that hey, you thought you're doing something right but you didn't, makes you wonder like, well, how often in life is that occurring elsewhere in places that actually matter a lot. So yeah, I make mistakes all the time. Just keep moving forward.
There is. Uh, I'm gonna try to break them up between like serious and not serious. Oh well, Wobbly Sauce says, well, I wanted to interject. Potato R33 is like one of the funniest guys. It's always in the chat. And he goes, one felony at a time, guys. One felony at a time. A good lawyer can get you off one, not two. The words to live by right there. So then
Yeah.
Wobbly Sauce says, can we go across the part where we do complimentary pizza and ice cream questions? So people always ask, what's your favorite pizza? And then what's your favorite ice cream?
I don't I don't care for food much, to be honest with you. Ever since I moved to Houston, now someone might disagree with this, but the food here is horrible. Like there's very little food in Houston. I keep saying this on Facebook, and everybody's telling me I'm insane. But I'm just, if there is good food in this city, I've yet well, the gas station burrito. So they have these little taquerias in the gas station here in Texas. Jesus, if you're gonna eat anywhere in Texas, that's the place to do it, because Mamacita will hook up a burrito like, oh my god, like I would murder somebody's mom over this burrito. It is delicious. But the rest of the food, there's some Cajun stuff, but we kind of stole that from Louisiana, right? So it's not like you can say, oh, we got great Cajun seafood, but it was just, pilfered from New Orleans. So yeah, pepperoni.
All right. And this one I think is in a few spots on here, so we'll cover it quick. It says, does Monkey Fab offer a complete hot side? And if not, will we see one in the future? So I'm assuming they mean like a Joey manifold and crossover
Yeah,
and everything.
yeah. Props to people that do that. It's so difficult to do, and I don't. So there's so many variables in building a jig and allowable tolerances, the manufacturers, that I never really felt like I could make something that you could put out and be really happy with on that. So that's why I make the things I do. It's just like, here's a few of the bits that may be more difficult to fab up on your own. And the point being, you can get those, get a couple, sticks and a couple bins, and have yourself a whole turbo system.
I think
How long it take you guys to fab it up? You guys use my wastegate stubby boys and the T6 on the 8 straight, right?
yeah, like not long at all. And then we also used your stuff on Mitch's, but we didn't use I have your wastegate things, but on Mitch's, I thought it would be a waste because we were doing all mild steel I had left laying around. But yeah, using your flange and the 2.5 locks into it and everything else, it was, I think in 45 minutes, we built the hot side.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. It takes me a while. Like each one of those collectors takes probably 20 minutes to weld. Well, that's just the weld. So the flange is made. Yeah, I just got through welding one of those like a few minutes ago.
So yeah, it's
But
already, what do you call this, a swage? Like it's
yeah,
already swaged for you
yeah.
to
So you can
slip
just
on a 2.5, and then it has a wastegate mount, and this fits 40 millimeter, 44 millimeter, and also Black Sheep Industries sent me 45 millimeter gates. It fits these. Like it's a very common seat for a bunch of different size newer
yeah.
wastegates.
I actually get those from Berlin.
And then it
The
has priority.
flange.
Obviously, you're supposed to put it flowing this way. So wastegate gets some priority. There's a lot of turbo kits out now where that's the opposite, but yeah.
It doesn't flow as well when you put them backwards. Yeah, so you definitely want to do that. I I do also. So those are a pain in the ass. I'm telling you, those
They
when
look like it. That's why I don't
bro.
do it.
Yeah, when I see an order for those come in, I cringe. I'm just like, oh, because it's easy. Like just that one is probably an hour of just seat time. I got all the stuff laser cut, so that makes it nice. I don't have to go in there and cut all those pieces and parts. But still, you're talking about probably a good hour of to get that thing together, all back purged. So there's argon's flowing the entire time, but that's going down. Those guys are so yeah. That being the point is that we sell these little bits just to try to make things easier for you. And that's what I do is when I'm working on my car, if I get jammed up, I get excited because I'm like, here's an opportunity that, I might be able to figure out something that other people can use.
And Jake said similar. There's a lot of people that make really good parts, so why should he try to compete with them? He just buys and uses their parts because they make a good part.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think people get wrapped up in the mentality, business speaking wise, of like this famine kind of idea. There's only one pot of gold, and we're all competing over this pot, and I don't believe that at all. I think that uh, there's plenty of room for everybody in this space.
Well, like
That
you people are like, why don't you make a complete hot side? And you're like, Joey already makes a log, and there's so many fitment issues with even a simple log that people always have to build their own crossover or use their own thing. So why would you open yourself up to? Because that's what Joey ran into, is people are like, build one for an S10, build whatever,
Yeah.
and then he does, and then no one buys it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's the rule. So some business things.
someone just said, if you make a perfect hot side, people will still complain. Yeah, we
Yes.
just said that too.
Well, number one is it's going to cost you more than you'll ever be able to sell it for in time, labor, uh, R&D, all that stuff. That once you consider how it's just really tough, right? Um, Somebody will figure it out. There's money to be made. If you're making a good, like, let's say you just bought the new, like, I have friends that make turbo kits for the new Mustang, and those guys, and they're like insane. You can just put a turbo kit on it and go eights with air conditioning, infotainment, all this crazy stuff. I think they may have to do something with a transmission. I'm not a Mustang guy, but there's space for somebody in there, but that's not my space, and I don't need to, worry about what's going on over there. If someone's filling that need in the market, just let those guys do it. I'm filling a need in the market. It works great, and it even works better. Like all of us are all working together. I get business from Joey. I get business from Varen. And likewise, if I need something, I'm going to send those guys my business, and I'm going to point people in that direction if I think their stuff is going to help them out. I know Varen constantly sends me people, and I appreciate it. But yeah, so there's not one pot. Don't worry about that, and do what you do well. Figure out something and just do it as best you can. Someone's going to appreciate that.
Oh, someone says, which I think you do you have a TIG welding how-to video, or maybe an aluminum or stainless how-to, since those two seem the most finicky?
Yeah, I got an entire TIG welding. If you just go to my YouTube, go into playlist, and just scroll down, it's going to be like a 13 episode deal, and I think it's called How to TIG Weld, or How to TIG Weld for Beginners, or something of that sort. And it's got all the information you'll need. And that's why I did that too. I feel like, selling these parts and then telling people when they call me up and be like, hey, I need you to make me this. And I'm like, you can do it. You can do it. Kind of like you do, Matt. You can do it. Just buckle down, figure it out. And that's why I made that video, is so I can point people in that direction and say, here is all you need to know to go on your way. And it's not hard. You could probably get away with building a turbo kit with like a grinder, like a cutoff wheel grinder, like a 4-inch grinder with a cutoff wheel, or a chop saw. I used to make them out just chop saws for quite some time in a MIG welder.
So Flowtech and Holley turbo headers come without the flanges. Out of your assortment, what do you recommend to get? I mean, whatever fits, I would say.
Yeah, the Flowtechs they usually have like up and forward or up and down facing. I have an adapter for those guys that takes it from a 3-inch V-band and knocks it down to either 2 1/4 or 2 1/2.
Yeah, the 3 is uselessly large, also, in my opinion.
It's
just
so
fill
stupid.
Your engine bay with garbage.
Like, even if you had like a T6, the biggest of the big boys, that opening on like the open T6 is only about 3 1/4, 3 1/16.
Well, max, like if you do a twin kit, like 2 1/4 is almost too big for the divided.
Yes.
Because you have the 2.5-inch thing, but it dips down in to fit.
Yeah. So getting 2 3-inch pipes on something that's supposed to be only 3 inches is difficult.
You're wasting so much time collecting that at the end.
Well, not only that, but as those pipes have larger bend radiuses because of their size. So now there's, what could be a nice tight bend is now like a long looping bend. And oh, by the way, it's also, bigger in the engine bay as it's, so it just starts sucking space up. And I usually tell people, first thing I'll ask is like, what's the goal? It's usually, I want to make 1,000 horsepower, 800 horsepower. So it's like, knock that down to like 2 1/4, 2 1/2, just whatever you want, but make it usable. And then the who is it, hooker? The hooker one's just a 3-inch V-band dump out the passenger side. And so all you need to do is just get a V-band and a flange and a piece of pipe, and a wastegate. I sell wastegate stubs that are already laser cut for you. So all you have to do is smash it over a pipe, trace around it, cut the hole out, weld it on. And that is just one of those other products that's there to try to help you out.
That's why I go nuts when people do the up and forward flow techs and fill their entire engine bay and their radiator and do a front mount turbo into a 7875. And I'm like, congratulations, you just used 90% of your engine bay for no reason at all. Because truck manifolds and everything else, like Reiner's built me that turbo kit back in the day that went to a 190 inside diameter. And I could foot brake that thing up into boost, and it made 720 wheel when I ran out of injector. And yeah, it was like one of the most responsive builds ever, and it was literally like this big. It was two of the 3-bolt truck things, and that was it. It was just this big. Like Mitch's, if I've showed pictures of Mitch's.
Just give me a second. I'm going to let you keep talking.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, like I've built plenty of super simple kits, and they work just as well as the ones that fill the entire engine bay. And similarly, we have seen like 2 1/4 turbo kits, like 2 1/4 inch piping, make 1,500 horsepower. So there's no sense in building all that mild steel stuff that sheds so much heat into the engine bay for no reason. And people always complain that those up and forwards go all the way to the rad, and they have to cut them and try to move them back, and then do like Mike said, the 3-inch giant radius, try to make something useful out of it, and it just makes it worse. So other than that, yeah, you don't really need to run big piping at all. So I don't know why. I guess people see race cars and they think that they have to do similar, right? They have to have like all of the crazy things in the car and everything else. And I always wondered, I've had people tell me.
Sorry, I didn't mean to stand you up.
Oh, no. Here we go. Examples.
So what I tell people is if you're going T4, that's a 2-inch tube right here on this T4 flange. And that fits perfectly for T4s. And the majority of people have T4s. The problem is that they start with that 3-inch flow tech or something, generally big. So they don't want to knock it usually all the way down to 2. But we swage these guys out to all the way to 2.5. But yeah, I mean, running 2-inch, that's what the ports are. That's the port size of the turbo. So I imagine that would probably work pretty good. But yeah, I mean, it's the same. Here's a 2.5 to T4 open boy, and that versus like the T6, and lastly like open T6. And what you'll see is like you were saying, this is two 2.5-inch tubes, and they're well suited to fit on there. When you try to shove 2 3-inch tubes over that space, it gets real congested right here.
And then I was going to say, when you came back, I have friends who are very smart with tuning and everything else, and they have back pressure data and pressure in like 3 different spots on the cold side, and they have done truck manifolds, and they went to like a handmade or a Flowtech, I think both, and they said their back pressure went down, but they made no horsepower over the truck manifolds. So that's an interesting perspective.
I mean, yeah, that's I'm always amazed by what you and I like Richard Holdner too. I've learned a ton just from you guys. Like I went to school for this. I literally got out of the Army and I went to Samtech and went to it, like how to build engines. I was a horrible student and didn't pay attention much. And I was working my business and working a part-time job at the same thing. So don't judge them based off of me. It was a very good school, but I learned a ton from you and Richard, just because like here's the facts. It's like here's the dyno, here's the facts. I mean, you can't run from this.
Yeah, it's funny to see, and that's what I've always said is big expensive doesn't. Here's the thing: if you like how it looks, fine. You like how it looks. Just admit that. But people are like, all this stuff is better, and we're like, for most people, not making 2,000 horsepower, it means nothing other than wasted money.
Yeah, that's usually like my first thing I'm trying to plow to people is it's like, are you trying to just wring every last ounce out of this thing, or is this just the proverbial ice cream burnouts car? Because that changes everything, right? It, there's certain turbos that, you know, like you guys were talking about the turbos. It was like, you know, if you're just doing burnouts, you know, this is great and it's going to be, you know, very cost effective and valuable. However, if you're trying to chase a class record, you know,
Yeah.
now you're
If
talking
you're a
about certain shit that
1%er,
you have to go get. You know, that it's not a question. Like you have to go buy the most expensive, best shit, most cutting edge shit you got.
yeah.
So
And Joe Simpson just said, like we talked about, the LS motor doesn't care. It doesn't care about a bad or good exhaust manifold. He says it, but if you put a log on a Honda, it'll knock the horsepower in half. From a nice
it's
tubular
no,
manifold.
yeah, it's true because I came over with that preconception that being a Honda guy, it took me a lot. It took a lot of convincing for me to be like, "What? You mean you could just use this log thing?" And I think that you know, Holder's pointed out when he's doing his videos, it's like just get the, or maybe it was you, both reminiscent, but just get the exhaust to the turbo.
Just get
It
it in.
doesn't just get it in there.
I've
It
purposely
doesn't
built those
matter.
hot sides that look like absolute garbage, and the car made 560 and went 10s off the foot brake on pump gas. And people are like, "Well, you're not even going to get that out of the garage." I drive it to the track, go 10, 20, and go home.
It's my favorite. That's one of my favorite pictures is that manifold.
Yeah, people post it all the time, and I'm like, I made that.
I know. It's like that. Are you talking about that 10-second manifold?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Oh, you're posting my 10-second manifold, and they're like, "That's funny," and I'm like, "No,
Yeah,
it's true."
yeah. The rules, dog.
So this says, what is the best place to start welding with, arc or MIG?
Neither. So weld with TIG, it's way easier. You have way more precision, way more control. Whereas welding, like I weld, and welding with a MIG welder is difficult because it's just you pull the trigger, it's going. It's just like, you know, you better be ready. It's coming out there, and stuff goes sideways. I imagine, just like anything, the more you do it, the better you get at it. However, the TIG welding, you can see everything that's going on. You can control how much amperage you have. You can control how much filler you have. You can control the travel speed. So there's, and it's like that, you know, pat your head, rub your tummy kind of thing, where you just have to kind of learn how to use both hands and your foot and your eyes all at the same time. That's the hardest part. But once you get that piece down, then it's just a matter of spending the time to learn what's going on in front of you so you know how to react to what you see, what's going on. So start with a TIG welder. If you want a TIG weld, would be my recommendation.
And someone, I think you've covered it in videos, but as of today, he says, Mike, what would you recommend for a weekend warrior AC/DC TIG welding machine that has good features and produces quality results, and I assume economically?
So my number one recommendation is that the Everlast, I think it's called the 205 DV. It's been around for a hot minute. It's analog, you know, it's got dials instead of the digital stuff and all that. But I want to say it's like $1,000, or it was selling for like $1,000, and it comes with everything you need. And I like that. So it's a good value point. I also liked the Harbor Freight guys. Its AC was kind of touchy. Like I'd have to, when I go over to AC on that Harbor Freight, the Harbor Freight boy, I'd have to like mess with the balance, even though it was already right to begin with. It was just like something crazy was going on, so I'd turn it up and then turn it back down to where I need it, start again, and it would work fine. the thing I like about the Harbor Freight is I have a Harbor Freight close to me, and when that machine, I wanted to take it back to them. I took it back to them. It was like within 2 years, they just gave me my money back or let me get a new one. And I got a new one. And when I picked up the new one, they're like, "Do you want the warranty with that?" And I was like, "Sure." So for $1,000, I've had 2 TIG machines, and it's still under warranty that I got 3 or 4 years ago. So that's kind of hard to beat. So you just have to kind of figure out what's your, where you at, what are your priorities. Those are good starter machines. I don't like either of them because I always worry about them breaking. But I think the Harbor Freight one, as long as your Harbor Freight where you're at works with you, then I'd probably go with that one. The Everlast seems to work really good and never have problems. But if you do have a problem, then it's my understanding you have to send it back through the mail to the manufacturer, and that's always scary. But most people don't seem to have problems with them. So the Everlast 205 DV or I think it's called Pro TIG 205 or something of that sort.
Oh, we'll ask this one and then we'll do some non-serious ones. It'll be funny.
Yes.
It says, this question is for both of you. How do you find balance, or do you spread yourselves too thin enough to satisfy work and home life?
Well, you can go first. I think we have the same answer.
My answer is, that's difficult. Sometimes I will neglect one or the other, and I'm always doing like a closed loop compensation, right? Sometimes I get obsessed with the car and I work on it a lot, and then sometimes, I back off of it for a while, and then sometimes work stuff is more important and time consuming, and then one or the other is burning you out or is difficult, so you try to like get all in between all of them. But also, like, I have Jamie to check and balance me because I'd work on my cars and stuff for 24 hours a day if I was left unchecked, and I wouldn't eat or anything. So she'd be like, "Go to bed, drink some water." So yeah, like she's a fine balance for that, because prior to that, like, my friends would be like, "Did you eat today?" So yeah, I think I'm always moving that target, but I guess that's what makes it work for me.
Yeah, my answer is probably very similar. I'm always thinking about work, and I'm usually always working. But my wife is like you said, very very good. I'm very lucky. I married way above what I should have, and
That's what I always
yeah,
say. People are
yeah,
like, "Man, you're punching above your weight." She
yes,
bought me shoes today because my other
yeah.
ones were like semi worn out, and she came home with shoes today. I'm like, "Oh,
It,
I guess I needed shoes," and she's like, "Yeah, yeah, you did." Because I used to like put holes out. My toes would be poking out of my other ones,
yeah,
and
yeah, she's a saint, and she just like you said, well, like you need to eat, and I don't realize like I won't eat. I've had I think a piece of ham today, and that was like it, and I'm just like, because I'm going, you just like focus, get work done.
at the dyno, the same thing happens. She'll drop off food or get me food because she knows I'm not eating the whole day.
Yeah,
Because I'm
and
like,
then
my brain's like car, fix, car, flash.
yeah, like I'm focused on my bullshit, and she'll come in focused on me,
Yeah,
and then I'll realize what a jerk I am. Like, oh,
yeah.
like I need to go spend time with her, and go and help her, support her and what she's doing. So, yeah, it gets real busy, but that's in my nature. I also realize that's part of me. It's funny. I have friends I have friends that just left the army, super high ranking, like there's maybe 4 or 5 people above this person, and these are the kind of people that just stay in crap. They enjoy being in the mud and in the fight, and once they leave that, they have to go find a new drama, and that's what I'll do to myself. If I don't have drama going on, I'll invent my own drama just to make like I'll put a time like, oh, we got to get this done by X. I don't know. Not sure why.
Joe Simpson is always funny. Like, his perspective is so close to mine. And he said Dyno is the worst for that. You start at 8 a.m. and 20 minutes later it's 6 p.m. It's like a time travel device. Same thing happens to me too.
I love I think tuning is fascinating, and I've always watched it and admired it, studied it. But then I think of like doing that job and like what it must be like when it's like homie shows up and you're like, you know what it takes to get a car going and running, and you know that they should know what it takes to have a car running. Like your boy, who was the big bodybuilder guy that did tuning? You're friends with. You did an interview with him. The audio was horrible. You said you tasted meth by throwing it in your mouth, and his eyes popped out of his fucking head.
Oh, who?
He's got the dyno hubs, the hub dynos.
Oh, that might have been Joe Simpson.
No, it's not Joe Simpson.
You said he was really big?
He's like a bodybuilder guy.
Devin?
Not Devin. He has dyno. What are those called? Dyno pods. Dyno.
Oh, well, yeah.
The red ones that bolt on the hub dynos.
Jeff Evans.
Jeff Evans.
He's right up the street. Yeah.
Yeah. And he used to do tuning videos, and he would just be like,
he still does them. He does more now than ever.
He would be like, they show up with dead batteries. They show up with no gas.
Yeah, I want to have him on again because the audio was terrible. I didn't realize how bad it would be. Because we were like, let's film in the shop, and then we're like, he was like renting out half of his shop for warehousing. We're like, oh, we'll go into this room. Well, it was empty because he was renting out half of the building. And then afterwards, I heard the audio, and I'm like, I'm going to throw this whole thing out. And I'm like, well, I'll just put it up, and people will complain, whatever. But yeah,
it was bad, but it was doable. It's funny that when you make YouTube videos, you don't realize that the first thing is going to be the most important thing is the audio.
Yeah, because it makes it unwatchable. Like similarly, if I watch something, I'm like, cool, I can't listen to this. It's bad.
Yeah, I thought maybe my first year and a half, I think, with audio. It was like I finally sprung and bought this super expensive boy.
That's why I like those most off-shelf Sony camcorders, is they have amazing audio, front and rear, and stereo audio. And
yeah, mine didn't want to play. But I don't know. But yeah, he was just, I look at the tuners and I think I'm like I couldn't do that every day, show up with adults that are supposed to be adults and they're not adulting. I don't know how to, I don't handle that well.
You learn.
Well, I know you said you've almost, thrown them out.
Yeah. I mean, you always have to, what I've learned is you have to see it from the perspective of that might be the first day that they run it, and it might be the first time and then, like I say, I give them homework. I have realized that not everybody has my knowledge, and I'm like, that's a really bad idea, and they have no clue. So you can't, I try, like, it depends. Like, there's that whole coin toss, right? There's days where I just want to punish people, and there's days where I want to help people, especially on the internet, but in person, they paid for my time, and I'm going to try to give them the most out of my time. Or like I can say to them, this is wholly unready. Do you want to quit and give me $150 and just leave before we think
some people have that perspective that I wired it all up and I'm just going to take it to the tuner.
I think a lot,
and that might be maybe if that's what you and your tuner agree on, cool.
Yeah, like Joe does stuff like that. Like he calls them and he's like, I'm going to spend hours fixing wiring or stuff. Is that what you want to do? He gives him the option, or he can push it outside. But I would say I'm lucky enough to have a larger YouTube following, and I only tune people that copy mostly what I do or something I find that's interesting, because I want to weed that out. And then also from that perspective, people realize mostly what I'm about and what I expect. And I've made fun of enough people for not doing certain things that it's in their brain, and they're like, Matt's going to make a video about me, or he's going to make memes about me, so I better not burn my plug wires or have my gap wrong or have something spewing. Or so that I think it's me not being afraid to bash people as what's turned around a lot of people. So
memes can be gentle teachers.
Yes. I wish, I like when people are mean to me because I
tell you the one meme about your car still being on the lift, it gets kind of old though. Yeah.
I like when people they post that picture that says report this photo, and it says I don't like it, or it's me, I'm in this photo, or something like that.
You get that?
No, like I'll say something mean
Oh,
about
okay.
people. I single them out, or I make a meme that's very specific, and people are like,
Yes.
"Ouch!" And then people post that picture. Like, well, you can report a photo, and it says I'm in this photo, and I don't like it. People post the picture of that all the time.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. I used to go on the political ads and report them as false advertising
People
or
just
fake news.
people just said I don't want to be a meme poster.
I just don't want to be the meme.
Yeah, that's what he means. He doesn't want to be
Yeah.
built into a meme. So that's in your head. If you're gonna bring something to me, you're like, I don't
Lord
want to.
Jesus, don't make me a meme today.
I don't want to be so bad. I'm made immortalized as an image. So then, here's a quick one. Like, will you ever do shipping to Australia? I tried to buy it off your site, and there was no option over a year ago.
Yeah, it's so difficult to do, and that goes back to that there's not one pot.
Yeah,
If you're in Australia and want to do this, man, call a brother up. I'll help you get started. It's too hard to get stuff imported. It's just tough. I don't like to. The only place I ship to other than America is Canada. That one place. Where's it? Yeah.
we have to turn them on one at a time because similarly, we learned a lesson with Shopify where it will not correctly calculate shipping.
Right.
It would charge for a decent amount of items. It would charge someone $7 to ship to Australia, and we're like,
Oh yeah, yeah. You have to set that up, and then oh by the way, once you get in there, then you got to fill out all the customs stuff and the weights and all this other. I mean, you can literally spend a half hour, an hour, just getting someone's postage done.
it's difficult.
So yeah,
That's why we don't do it.
yeah. And they got guys there. I watch Skid Factory. I know what's going on. I've seen Benny.
Well, there's one. What was I going to ask? Which was it about V bands? There's a double-sided question here. I'll try to ask both at once because I'd like to get rid of both. So they're asking, with the hot side, how do you like to mount your AC compressor? Do you notch the frame? And then, what's the best way to brace a V-band inlet twin turbos? And then the other one is, what's the reliability of a regular V-band versus your copper ones, and which one's better?
Okay, lots of V-band questions.
That's what I figured
So
we would try to
so
crush them
first,
all.
let's talk about a V-band because everybody should know this, but lots of people don't. So I'll have people call me and say like, "What size is this?" They don't know how to measure it. So the V-bands are described by the actual tube that slips in the back that you weld it to. So a 3-inch V-band is actually meant for 3-inch tubing, and that's what they're set for. So we got that. The copper boys, I just figured that we could get some copper in between the two and use that as a replaceable gasket because a lot of times when you weld those V-bands, anytime you weld stainless, it's going to move on you. Now you can do things to mitigate some of that, like clamping it down by how you weld, what you weld, but they have a tendency to leak. And everybody's had a leaky V-band, and that's just what the copper guy is so that you can use that as a crush in between the two and hopefully get a better seal. There are some things you should do when you're using V-band. So the clamp itself is made of stainless steel, and so are the flanges. Well, similar metals like to join. They like to become one. And that's like if you ever use like stainless steel bolts and nuts, you'll likely get them to galled up, and then you end up breaking them off or ripping them off. It's because the metal just basically fuses itself together, it galds up on that stuff. So what I like to tell people to get the best clamping force out of those is use a little lube on the inside of the actual clamp itself. So when you throw it on there, that it's actually moving smoothly over the stainless. Don't use a ugga dugga to tighten it down. Tighten it hand tight and throw a little bit of anti-seize on there. Also helps that bolt. All those things will help you get a better have a better experience with those V-bands. The welding is the most important. What I like to say is I like to go fast. Get in there. I don't penetrate when I'm doing V-bands. I don't spend a lot of time putting a lot of heat in it. I just weld it and go around real quick. And I've had good luck with that for many years. But somebody else might tell you, penetrate the Jesus out of it, and maybe they're right. So does that answer the V-band questions?
I'm sure. Yep. And then I would say similar. A lot of people's V bands leak. Like when I'm on the dyno, you can hear them ticking.
Right.
I try to weld as much as possible. I'll weld 3/4 of it while it's together because I know I struggle with that fitment, and I usually never have a problem. But the copper ones are amazing because you may have a small leak, and obviously that fixes it. Also, if you take it apart a lot, I think that makes it easier for sealing.
Yeah, I have a friend I work with. Like we work together on the design. He's the engineer. I'm the idiot with the idea and money. So I throw him ideas, and he does the CAD and all the fancy stuff. So one of our things we're working on is coming up with a better solution for V-band clamping. So hopefully that'll come up. I mean, I like the copper ones; they're okay, but I'm thinking that there might, we're going to work some different things going on out there and see if we can't come up with something better that's not as prone to leaking or warping. We also got titanium, so we added titanium to the lineup about 3 or 4 weeks ago. So we have all kinds of cheap titanium. And imagine it's the same stuff the other guys are selling, but I'm not marking it up, 200-300%. So maybe check that out if you're interested in titanium stuff. The idea is I'm trying to get like a whole titanium line together, so that you could do like a whole hot side in titanium is kind of my end goal. So we'll be working and all these things are just dependent on me making enough profit to put the idea out there and get it actually made. So we always got ideas. We're always working on stuff, and a lot of good ideas I get from the customers. Somebody will call me up and say like, "Why don't you do X, Y, and Z?" And that's always appreciated.
This one. What was your first EFI swap project, and what was your first EFI tuning experience, both of you? So you go ahead first.
Yeah, so it was the '90 Honda SI on OBD1 with what was it, Johnny Chu? Was it called Chrome? It was like CROME, and it was a great program. So whoever did this, and that was back in the days where you had like this burner board, right, with the old pin, like the 32 pin or whatever the hell it was, connector, and you're like burning EPROMs. It was fun. I really enjoyed doing that. I thought that being, coming up carburetors, distributors, your typical, swap a carb on it type of person, that I'd be scared with the fuel injection stuff, but I really enjoyed it. I thought that it was, I thought it was just really neat how you could control, how much control you could get from the fuel and out of the engine with the computer versus, points and a toilet bowl, as you like to say.
I would say not my first DFI experience, but I guess they mean swap. So I would say my first swap was a Fairmont that I did. And my first tuning experience, I have to think about that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I know at least I had a Pontiac G8 and I had a Magnuson supercharger, and I learned a lot about HP tuners from my friend, and I would dabble with that to learn. So maybe that's my first DFI tuning experience, maybe. I think before that, man, I can't. My friend and I built that 5-liter supercharged Mustang, and he eventually had a Megasquirt on it, and we dabbled with that, and that was way earlier. So maybe it was that. It wasn't my car, but that's where I first got some EFI experience. And then I also I had a 636, a Ninja Kawasaki, a 2006 636 street bike, and I put a turbo on that, and I tuned that with EFI also, but I was an idiot, and I burned like 2 pistons and fixed it the third time and got rid of it.
Yeah, I blew up the Honda going up. If you're ever been to Hawaii, there's three basic. There's H1, H2, and H3. And I was going up H3, I think in third gear, boosting my titties off, and it was just like straight up a mountain, all the load, and we lost a ring lane, but almost. You got to push them to learn, right?
Yeah, you got to break some ringlands to know, in my
Got to crack a
opinion.
few ring lands.
Yeah,
You know when that
just,
telltale smoke is burping out the breather box.
yeah, it's just like an egg. You just got to crack some to learn what you're doing.
So how'd you end up on the dyno?
Oh, I mean, we can go over that quick too. I started by doing cash for clunkers wasn't a thing, and we just started doing dumb things with cars. That's how we got into it. So what we would do is my friend worked at a dealer, and old ladies would trade in a 1984 LTD with 800 or 8,000 miles on it, and they buy a new car, and they'd give them $150 for the car. So they would sell it to us what they paid for it. And then we would drive it through fields and drive into rocks and off jumps. And eventually we got involved with it because everyone was afraid of nitrous. So we'd buy cheap nitrous kits and we'd spray them and burp all the things people do when they're idiots with nitrous. And then we learned how to not do that. And then we learned how to make it really effective. And then after a while, like, we learned how to make nitrous effective. So at that time, we wanted to put it on a dyno. We heard about measuring horsepower and everything. And then Troy, the owner of Deal Paving, had a dyno. And a friend of a friend, somehow we got hooked up with him. And we used to go there and dyno our bullshit. And eventually, Troy likes nice things, like the GT500 and the nice truck and everything else. So we're sitting there laughing like total idiots, and fireballs are coming at it. And he's like, I don't want to be here all day for this. This is so dumb. Like, he didn't want to mess with it. So eventually, we would come there so often and bother them so much. He's like, here's keys. Here's an alarm code. Just don't burn the place down. Goodbye. Leave me some money, whatever. I don't care anymore. And we just laugh about it. So, and then, again...
So just to drill down that. So you guys were so obnoxious.
We were so annoying that the owner was like...
and obnoxious. He didn't even give a shit if you blew up the stuff. Just here.
The biggest thing was it wasn't a shop and it wasn't a tuning facility where us running the dyno would eat up time. Like Joe Simpson would lose money all day if we were just being retarded there. And it would cost us so much that we would never do it. So it was a perfect opportunity. And then similarly, where we started to get really good with nitrous, nitrous went through the roof price-wise like 5 times back then. And then cash for clunkers happened. So all of our $150 cars completely disappeared overnight. And then that's when we got into the turbo LS stuff. And then after a while, we were breaking ringlands and pistons and everything. Once you start doing that enough, you figure out how not to do it. You learn all sorts of stuff. And that's when I got into like the automotive Mythbusting. But that's far and away from how I got on the dyno. So that doesn't matter anymore.
And how old were you guys?
I have to think, like in our teens.
Yeah, so that must have been great. This guy's running a business, and you got a bunch of teenagers with the Jasper Clunker's car with a nitrous bottle.
There's those videos.
We're here to blow this up on your dyno, sir.
YouTube started in 06, and we were already doing dumb things and recording it, and I used to upload them to streetfire.net. And then they got all weird with copywriting and stuff, so YouTube opened up in 06, and I created an account, Sloppy Mechanics, in 06. So that was one of my first videos, was the nitrous rental car, where we rented a car and put nitrous on it and dynoed it. And first night, Friday night, we put nitrous on it. Saturday morning, we had it on the dyno. We drove it. We put like 8 bottles through it on the weekend. And then Sunday, we took it to Island Dragway and took 4 seconds off our quarter-mile time with spray and not spray, and then turned it back in Sunday night. So at least since then, which was a little while now, and then before that, we were already using the dyno. So probably 03. So like 17 years ago, we started doing that. And I'm 36, so I was like 19.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's great. And so, at what point did it become like the MythBusters thing?
When I built the Fairmonts, and then like we did the dumb things
And
like
and why?
I had seen, and I told Kyle Loftus this, and I think he was blown away. I said, "You're the reason why Sloppy Mechanics exists." Kyle Loftus is the owner of 1320 Video, if you guys don't know. And I was like, "Hey, you're the reason why Sloppy Mechanics existed," because I'd have to look when the video was, but that guy built a 5.3 Turbo Fairmont, and he drag weeked it and everything else, and then he got rid of it. That Jim Parrish guy, his username on the internet's Parrish. But I was like, I love shitty old cars. Like that's why we would get $150 cars, especially old Fords. And what he did, I was like, I want to do that. I think I can figure that out. So I got a Fairmont, I got an LS engine. I soldered my own Megasquirt 1 board because they were using an MS1 and a 6010. So I copied all the same things, figured it all out, and then started doing that. And I'm posting videos of it, and everyone's like, "You're a moron. None of that's going to work. None of it's going to last." But just repeated stupid things.
And this is
Meanwhile,
over on LS1 Tech, right?
yeah, meanwhile, I was doing really well in my eyes. And then people are like, "You should do this." So then I would do it and it wouldn't matter. So everyone was an expert. And I actually call it, Cameron always laughs because I call it like Internet Week or something like that. For a whole week, I did whatever people told me to do. And I'm like, nope, torched cylinder head off. Nope, did whatever. Nope, burned the bottom end. Nope, knocked 3 pistons out of it. Nope, none of you guys are experts. And that's where my brain started going like, no one knows what the hell they're doing. They're just regurgitating. Uh, yeah, so that's where that would all happen. And then that's where the whole automotive myth busting thing stems because I would build the hot sides that teed together and then an offshoot of that would go to the turbo and the car would make 560 wheel through an auto. It was far and above what other people had, and it looked awful. And I had the dirty stuff in the engine bay, and I knew nothing about wiring and everything. But my car, I'd start it and run it, drive it, and go to Ocean City and back, and do burnouts the whole time. So I'm like, how bad can this be, guys? So
Well, I would say that there's been a huge change to the culture. When I grew up in the culture, it was A, you wanted to have a nice car, and then B, if it was fast, that was nice. But the fast wasn't really an option. I mean, there was only so many things. You know, back in '90, you were not putting turbos on, and you certainly wouldn't put turbos on a car for under like $2,000, right?
yeah,
The economy of it has become unbelievable over the last maybe decade,
yeah.
and that's just competition driving prices down. You know, people in the market space making it cheaper for everybody. People are doing stuff like you and saying, "Hey, oh, by the way, you don't need that, you know, new head gasket or the fancy rod or whatever it was." Because that's all it was back when I was coming up. It's just magazine after magazine saying, you know, like the intricacies of engine building. You know, they have skill, just just crazy, right? And you can do that. There might be a time and place, you know, to weight the rods, balance both ends, all worry about the reciprocating weight of the flywheel and the crankshaft and all this. Um, but if you're just doing ice cream and burnouts, just yanking any European assembly out of any LS works, right?
Yeah, people are. I heard it too, but people are saying your mic is breaking up. Is it raining harder there?
Yeah, it's coming down.
Yeah, so probably it's a lot of noise canceling and other stuff is going on. So people were like, I knew because you talked about the rain earlier, but I'll just say to people like, he has a metal roof and it started raining and now it's raining harder. So
Yeah, so that's why I was kind of asking you about the sloppy stuff. A, I'm interested. I've always been interested. And B, I think everybody, if I'm interested, other people might have been interested too.
oh, yeah. Someone says, do you remember seeing old DFWSS videos on Streetfire? I do. I think the first video I saw of Boosted GT was on Streetfire where he's wearing the towel on his head and they have the old Sony night vision camera and he's driving that yellow car and he's going like this out the window, like surfing his hand. and he's going, I'm a street car, and he's yelling out the window at everybody. And then he goes, if it has a horn and it honks, I'm a street car. And he's like, beep, 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 beep. And then he pulls up on some dudes with a Corvette, and he's like, go, go. And they hit it, and they're spinning like first and second. As soon as they start going, he's like, and he grabs high, and he's like, he's in another state already. And he's like, I'm a street car, out the window the whole time. I was like, this guy's fantastic. I think that's the first Streetfire video I remember seeing that left an imprint on me. And that's when I'm like, I want to do retarded turbo car stuff. Why is that car so fast? I'm not understanding something.
Yeah, I remember my first ride in a turbo car. So I had a good friend, his name's Dean, and he was a Honda guy. And I was new to Hondas. And I think I was doing so I did the B16 swap. And he came over with somebody's turbo Integra. And it was shit. It was like the eBay kit. Everything was leaking. You could literally see flames shooting out of the turbo manifold as it was spooling up. But that turbo came on, and you're like, oh, whatever that was, I need much more of this in my life.
Yeah, people are saying here, they're laughing about the boosted GT, and he's at a gas pump at one point, and he's filling a fuel cell, and he's like, street car, and he's just, that's why we always. My friends and I would always say that to each other all day then. We just yell at each other, I'm a street car. And I think I used to say it in a bunch of old videos. And Techmark, he's like, I remember watching them use Dr. Pepper as traction compound. Yeah, he's famous for, they just literally take a Dr. Pepper bottle and pour it all over the ground because it has like that corn syrup and stuff in it. Oh, someone just said, I just found that video on YouTube. Everybody look up Boosted GT, the I'm a Street Car video. It's fantastic. That's what, stuff like that changed my life forever. And I was like, this car's fast, and this guy's funny, and they're just out hammering this thing. I want to be a part of all that.
Yeah, how old are you, Matt?
36.
Okay, yeah, so we got like a decade between us.
Yeah.
Ish, yeah. It's just interesting the different perspectives and how I grew up in California, and like cars were just part of the car. And I was a car guy, like, when you're a kid and just always had a Hot Wheel in your hand.
It was never me. That's the funny thing. I wasn't into cars until after I graduated high school. So it's always funny to me. I tune a bunch of cars, and I realized that people went to high school with me.
So what were you doing for fun in high school?
I just, I was not very popular at all. So I was just some dumb kid at a rich school. And I was helping my friend with a bunch of stuff. I think I did mostly computers and electronics, and that's where my job stemmed from.
Video games and shit like that?
Yeah, like that, and taking things apart. And I got into co-ops and Votech school for electronics and computers early on, and I did really well, and I went right into, like I think I said co-op. But I started working before I was even out of school, and then I had experience in the medical field and a bunch of other stuff, and working at Merck and Teva Pharmaceuticals. So I had IT healthcare experience, even though I wasn't even out of high school. So I got hired immediately, but then I was like, you can't go home and play with computers and go to work and play with computers, and it just wears it all out for you. There's some people that still do that at my job, and unfortunately, it's not even a joke. People like that have a stroke in their early 30s. They have no break from work. So I was like, I'm going to do dumb shit with cars. When I started seeing these videos, I'm like, that's cars to me. So what's kind of nice is I didn't learn any of the stupid bad habits and dumb carbureted, like I always make fun of boomers, but it's like we said the other day, boomer isn't an age, it's just the type of car guy I'm describing.
It's a mindset.
It might be boomer,
it's a state of mind.
It might be something to everybody else, but I'm like 150 horsepower big block V8 with a carburetor that doesn't run, start, or whatever well, and the guy's like, hell yeah, that's a boomer. He can be 19, he can be 59.
Well, look at over the last decade as what's considered fast.
Exactly. It's
like 2010, 10 seconds was fucking screaming.
It's mind-numbing. Yeah.
Now everybody does 10 seconds.
And what's funny is I think I got right on that wave where 12-second car was extremely fast, and now I spent $5,000 and I have a 9-second car, and that's, at that point it was unbelievable. But then my favorite part is you'd look at my engine bay, filthy car, mud on my coil packs, dirty, rusty hot side piping that I cut out of a Silverado, going into a reverse T, you know, into all this disgusting stuff. And people are like, this isn't the same car that made that pass. Like, they simply don't believe it. I want to send you a video. Should I send it on Messenger?
Yeah. Was that the red Fairmont?
I never had a red one. My
It
first
was
one,
like a brown, like a darkish
my first one was a
brownish.
two-door that was brown.
Okay.
And then I quickly, the rear end started making noise because I put an 8.8 in it. The rear was starting to make noise, and I was trying to figure out what the noise was one day. And I was rolling in and out of it, and it started getting worse. And that's when it ejected an axle and spun me out backwards into like a big grass berm. And I folded the whole back of the car. And
Oh
I
no, I
just
didn't
scrapped
know.
the car because I'm
I
like,
didn't know any of that.
this car costs like $800. It's not worth fixing.
Right.
So that's why I got rid of the first brown one. But then I've always done, the issue there was it was stock axles and I had drums. So
Yeah.
I bought billet axles after that, like $200 Alloy USA or Summit axles, because what happens is that stock axle is like a porous cast. So there was a lot of
Right.
air pockets where I broke it. It looked like broken rock. So
But it was still a stock 8.8, right?
completely stock Fox
Yeah.
body 8.8. So it
Yeah.
had nothing.
They had the 28, the smaller 28 springs.
Here, I'm sending you a video. We'll wait till it comes through. I want to get your reaction. But my friend sent me this today, and it's a Huracan Performante with an alpha package. Just watch how fast it goes from 0 to 223 miles an hour.
Is this the black one?
No, he owns that, but this is a street car.
Oh, this is the guy you were talking to down there at the
You're muted, so you can turn it up. Surprise face.
That's crazy.
That's a street car you can
You
drive
know,
through
I
Starbucks.
had a '99 BMW M3. So I mean, woohoo! But I mean, like 200 horsepower, I would guess at the wheels, something like this. But it's an M3 and it's supposed to be a performance car, right? And I'm driving across Wyoming on my way out west, and I look and there's nothing you can see on this road as far as the eye can see. And I'm like, I'm just gonna drop this hammer and do it. And it got up to 100 pretty quick. And it even got up to 100, I want to say 40-ish. And then it was just like every mile an hour after 140 was just painful. And you could feel the wind resistance just holding you back. And that was probably one of the fast, you know, I might have been faster in something on a track, but just wide open on the streets, that was probably the fastest I ever went. And that how long it took me to get to that 140 is when I see something like this and they're like,
He's
almost,
talking and it's driving straight and it's not even loud. And he's like 140, 180.
yeah,
He's like, that's 200. And then his friend starts freaking out and he's like, okay, 223. He wasn't out of power or gear in the least.
it's insane.
He just lifted because homie was freaking out. Justin Kramer, how often do you shave your head, Mike, coming from a fellow bald man?
Yeah, like every week. What I'll do is I'll shave it all, the whole head, and then as it gets too itchy to manage the facial hair, I'll shave it all again. So like every week. Since I left the army, so I used to spend a fortune on razors because in the army you had to be clean shaven every day. And I bought like the value pack when I got out of the army. That was 5 years ago, and I'm down like 4 or 5 razors. So like one a year.
Oh man, this is a long one. We'll ask that in a little bit just to give ourselves a break. I got a question for Mike when it's convenient. My question is, when I make my turbo stainless turbo, yeah, I wasn't reading it incorrectly. He uses the word turbo a bunch of times. So when he makes a stainless turbo manifold, Would it be smart to do a double slip joint?
I I I, I don't. I just like hard pipe everything. Is how I do it.
People were asking about flex pipes in the chat, and almost everybody would say the same thing I says is try to avoid them as much as possible. Like, I'll admit, the only reason I used to use a flex because my pipe fitment is awful, and I would
Right.
put a giant flex section in to get it
So
where I
you can move
wanted.
it.
So now I know that that's dumb as hell, and
Yeah.
also I build a hot side accordingly. Like I think we said about Mitch's, we use the 3 bolt on the one side and a V band on the other. Because what you can do is start the 3 bolts and you have a ton of wiggle. So then you put the V band on, make sure that's tight because that's super hard to align if everything sucks. And then you just ram those bolts in, and then everything's good. And
Yeah. What I like, I'm kind of lucky because I have a pipe expander, which
uh,
not everybody has. So if you can get a slip joint in it when you're doing that, what I like to do is weld everything, especially stainless, because stainless will move so much. And if you're welding like a system, like a pipe that goes from one bank to the other, and you have like 3 or 4 joints, it can move a lot. So what I'll do is I'll leave one slip in it, just a single slip joint, and then after I'm done welding everything, I'll put it on the car, bolt everything down, and then I'll tack those 2 places and run that last weld. And that way I don't, everything still fits. Because if you're just tacking on stainless, especially, you're doing like, 6 joints that you got to weld, like 6 weld joints of pipe, you got to do full circles on. And what you tend to do, right, is you lay it down and you do everything you can see, right? And you rotate it a little bit, do everything you can see. Well, that's pulling that every time you rotate it, that metal solidifies from being liquid. It shrinks and it pulls it all in that direction. So uh, you get a lot of movement with stainless. So what I do is do everything and then leave yourself one joint to go back in there and touch up, and that'll help you.
yeah, I would say that's where I learned. I used to put the giant flex in because nothing would fit. But now I said to you, I think I try to weld as much as possible while everything's bolted. So I just have to do like
Yeah,
small stuff when it comes out. And I try to put stuff in an area where I can weld as much as possible. And I think the part of me that's like, I don't care what it looks like benefits there because I will just put it on top of things and until like it's tight that it won't walk when I'm done finishing.
yeah. There's a huge relief that comes with not caring,
Yeah.
almost like a benefit, because now you're not psyching yourself out. Getting yourself. I remember when I first started welding, I used to get so nervous and like, oh my god, I hope I don't blow it out, or you want to make it look nice so you can show with your friends and show, hey, here's what I'm doing. But once you give 0 Fs, then you just you'll go pretty fast, man. I learned that with my pipe, doing AN lines. Um, the, the fewer Fs you get when assembling AN lines, the better they go together.
Yeah, and I
The
learned that
fewer leaks you're going to
immediately.
have. Yeah,
And I think I try to give that to people. I make people comfortable with like I always say that stuff like someone's like, "Is this okay?" And I'm like, "I won't call the cops. Looks great." So there's
with,
those welding
with
threads where everyone's like lambasting some poor guy, and
yeah,
I'm like, "Looks good," and
yeah.
everyone like laughs, and I'm like, "No, it looks good. If
There's
you
a whole
I'm like, did you stand on it? Is it
right.
folding apart? No, it'll
Yeah.
work forever. Because I have friends who, again, like I don't make fun of people that make pretty welds. Well, I try to
Ah,
because in my experience, when they're real pretty, they break easily, or they don't hold, or they crack. Especially like I don't like stainless at all because I feel like it breaks all the
right.
time. It breaks right after the weld, or it breaks with weight, or it expands and cracks, or people with like the prettiest stainless stuff are the people with the most broken exhausts all the time, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah. And you can get away with mild still. What I like to do is I like to weld it all the same. I treat it all. I back like somebody asked this question about back purging,
Yep.
and I back purge everything. Like I don't freak out about it. Like, it doesn't have to be shiny silver. It doesn't have to be a good back purge. Like literally, I'll slap some tin foil over it and back, even if it's mild still, because it makes a better weld joint on the backside of it. So if you're TIG welding, that's just something I do. But yeah, there's a freedom that comes with not over investing and being semi-detached from the project, right?
Yeah.
So you're just like, I just want to go fast, you know. I'm just gonna slash it. It's like engine building, right? I can freak out and build the most expensive engine. I could have, you know, all forged internals, balanced rotating assembly, you know, fancy ARP head stud, half-inch head studs, and when I toast that, I'm gonna fucking cry
That's what I
for like
try to push
for
on
like a
people.
week or two. And my last engine, it blew up because I didn't change the oil. It got a little bit too much E in the oil to help the viscosity, and it was like I paid $250 for that thing. Whatever.
That's what I used to break. I used to break like ringlands and stuff at 400 horsepower, and people are like, just build it. Stop being an ass and build the engine. And I would be like, if I don't learn how to keep this alive, what if I break $10,000?
Yeah.
I don't think you guys are getting the point, because that's every year I've found out how to make 100 more horsepower safely. And people, even when I was making 800, they're like, why are you being a moron and not putting in $1,000 in pistons? Because I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm learning my own lesson and I broke it. The engine didn't just decide, oh no, and break. So, yeah.
It's like any profession. You're actually doing something. You're paying attention to it. You're putting different inputs in. You're seeing what the outputs are. Just figuring it out.
Yeah, and that's where Internet Week and stuff like that, I call
Yeah.
it Internet Week. Because people are like, you're dumb and do this, and then you're dumb and do this. And I think on the Colorado especially, I opened the ring gap at some point to 65 because people are like, it's ring gap. And they were like, it's and then they were like, well, don't go too high, you'll lose all your power. So I'm like, with a Harbor Freight grinder, there's a gap like this on the ring. And you know what? The car made the same power and it barely smoked. So I'm like, they're like,
well, thank you, Matt.
I'm like, how am I going to lose all my horsepower with a gap this big on two rings? Explain to me. And people are like, it will, it will. You know what, guys? It didn't. And then they're like, you know what? Your valves are leaking because they're pitted. So I did like a valve job and we scuffed them by hand. They had a perfect seal and they held water. It made this much horsepower difference again. Like, so that's why I'm like, you're an expert. Tell me what to do. Oh, this is for sure what's wrong with your, nope, it didn't matter at all. Like, yeah. So that's why I like to be that guy.
Remember I sent you those ported heads?
Yeah.
And I was like, Matt, I'm gonna call you, and you were like, because Matt does not like human interaction. Just say that he's a nice guy. Just leave him alone.
I dread it. It's so weird how I'm that.
It riddles him with anxiety. So just be nice and leave him be. But I'm like, I'm gonna call you. And as I called you, I'm like, Matt, you're gonna have to, when you're putting down the I think it was the intakes. So when you're putting the studs in there, be sure to put a little sealant on them, because when we pour them, we break through that where that stud goes. You're like, yeah, I'm like, no problem. So there's like maybe a month later, you're like, people are saying something about some sealant, Mike. Am I supposed to put sealant on these fucking heads?
I never did it.
Like, yeah, and I was like, well, if it's not smoking, man, it must be fine.
Yep, I didn't care.
So I didn't put them on mine. You teach us, Matt.
Yeah, long run.
The other thing was I was doing the same thing with the ring gappies with the speedy grinder on the vise, bop, and I had a little. I was shooting for, I think 26, but some of them were more like 46, and I was a bit concerned about that. But I feel better. You put me at ease, man.
And that's where I was watching videos of, obviously Jay Meager is outstanding talent, and at his power level and his engines, it probably matters. But they were talking about how you can't bevel a ring and it has to have a perfect edge or it'll catch. So when I gap those, like the grinder's here, say, and I pinch the ring, and then I turn the ring all in different directions. And I bevel it like my finger, like my hand. So the ring looks like this on the end, so it has all smooth oval edges. And then I jam it in with a 65 gap, and it made the same power. And then we did a valve job on the heads, and it made the same power. And I'm like, so much for that one, boys. Like, you know. And then I have a truck intake that looks like it's been in the ocean, and I replaced it with a clean one that someone washed, and it made the same power and whatever.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, and that's what I appreciate most of out of this community is just cutting through the bull. When I went to school at Sam's, the old man teaches a class. He's got to be 80, but he grew up. He put himself through college drag racing in Houston back in the '60s. I mean, like, what a great story. And now he runs a school where he teaches people to build engines and whatever. My favorite thing was to ask him, but what if? He'd be like, you gotta, this and the balance it, yada yada. And I'm like, yeah, Judd, but let's pretend it's midnight and that thing's got to go out the door to be a race in the morning. He's like, well, if it spins, it wins.
Yeah, nice,
like,
good answer.
Like, that's what I'm paying you for.
Now friend. I know he's real, right?
Yeah. If it spins, it wins, and there you go.
Because other people will give you definites, or they're scared to be judged, and they won't.
Yeah.
And
but when you're 80, you don't give a. This guy gave. All of them. They've been all distributed. He's out of F's.
Yeah, he doesn't have to sell you anything. That's what I appreciate when someone just tells. And that's why I say stuff like, I'll come at people when I ask something, and some people probably don't like it, but I like. That's why a bunch of the people I would interview on these other shows, I'm like, let me give my answer first, so that if I'm wrong, everybody knows it. And it's not like someone, like you explain something and I go, oh yeah, that's what I do. No, how about I say what it is and then you correct me, so.
Yeah, well, you got, it's great that we have this community because you guys share stuff, and it's stuff that you don't always think about. Like you're talking, I think a couple of videos now, you've been talking about the wastegate, the single wastegate, and it should be fine. They're like, yeah, like, and I thought the same way. Like I was like, hey, I've ran this wastegate at like 1 PSI. It's going to be plenty, but that doesn't make up for the volume, like you said.
Once you start expanding,
between 300 horsepower's worth of exhaust and 900 horsepower's worth of exhaust.
I learned all massive. That. When I made 400 horsepower, it wasn't a big deal, but now over 8, you have to reconsider. And that's where people ask what kind of wastegate setup they should do, and we're like, we need to know the whole setup. Like you need to look at it, and you need to see the turbo size and expectation of power. And anymore, I tell people to hang 240s or 244s like we did on Mitch's. We did, because he had boost control issues and building
and
boost
you can almost
issues.
put them anywhere, right? Is that what you guys are doing?
Yeah, I mean,
you can literally put one on the runner between the fucking banks if you know.
That's what we did on his. So we did that forward-facing truck kit, and then we put, because the one out of the, it's V-banded out of the truck manifold, and it goes like 4 inches into the T6 flange.
Yeah.
And then we did he just put a 90 on it and did I had an EM USA 40 millimeter V-band gate. And I'm like, here, buy another. You should do twin gates. Because his was like the reverse T, and then it went into 690s, and then it had a 60 millimeter wonton gate, which are awful. You can buy those guys, and for some things they work, but they are awful. So his car had boost building issues, and then it had trouble maintaining it, and then it would creep. It was like boost by gear, but we could never give it enough power down low to run a good time, blah, blah, blah. So now we did twin 40s. So the one side, passenger side, it goes down and makes a 90 to go over to the T6. It's right on the 90. Like it's right on the 90 on the other side. And then the other side, it has 4 inches, and it's a 90 degree, which isn't ideal, but there's no room to lean that gate over before it hits the exhaust housing.
And you like the 2 smallers over the big 60?
Absolutely, because a lot of the 60s are.
I'm gonna go relieve myself, Matt.
Okay.
And if you want to broadcast on that question, then I'll be right back.
Yep.
Otherwise, these things are starting to float. I'll start to look like Varin at the end of his video.
Yeah.
I felt bad for Varin that day. I had to text him like, Varin, you can just say goodbye.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm like,
and he texted you. He goes, Matt, I got to go, and you're like, okay, just 5 more questions. And I saw a little tear roll down Varin's
He should have just said, I gotta go now, because I thought I told him. I thought I'd tell everybody in the beginning, you can go whenever you want, whatever. And then people are like, can I have a drink, or can I go to the bathroom? I'm like, yeah. This isn't middle school. You can do whatever you need to do. Take your kids to school, take your dog out, whatever. Did stainless the whole way. So next week, guys, who do I have for next week? I went to tell you and now it just escaped my head. Does that ever happen to you guys? Who is next week? Let's do... I forget who I was going to schedule for next week. I was talking to like 3 people. Next Saturday, I want to do a diesel guy. He's been in the chat before, and we make fun of so many diesels. He seems very knowledgeable. I want to schedule him. I forget his name. I got to email him back for next week. And then the week after that, I want to have, is it Ryan Hoffman, the owner of Jolt Systems? And then what I'd like to do is, Tom Nelson agreed to do a show, so I'd like to have him do the Saturday after that. And then Cletus has agreed to do a show, but he's super busy with events. And then also Kyle Loftus, owner of 1320, said he would entertain doing a show. And then also, you know, Hank Iraz is, that does all the fast RS3s and Audis and everything else. He said he would do a show also, among all the other people I know that said they would do a show. But I don't want to have too many people I know in a row, because I know you and I know what you do. I'd like learning. I'm especially interested in having the diesel guy, because I know not much about diesels other than most of them break and they're slow and the owners are kind of egomaniacs. And that's anybody that can separate themselves from their feelings will agree to that, I think.
I can always tell it's a diesel guy, as the first question will be like, hey, Mike, do you have an exhaust ring in like a 10-inch or a 15-inch? You're like, nah, dog.
Just cut a 50-gallon drum and stick it on your bed and blow. I've seen that before. People have like a dirty 50-gallon drum, steel, and their exhaust is coming out of it. I'm like, what a retard you have to be to do that. Because I said I totally soapbox on that one radio show about people were like complaining about the EPA. I'm like, we did this to ourselves and we let diesel bros make it worse and no one told them to stop. We laughed about them sooting on 16-year-old blonde girls on their phone walking on the sidewalk, and here's where we are, guys. Thank you. And everyone's like, you are 100% right.
Yes, sir. Who would be that? So the instructor over there at the SAM school will be an interesting interview for you. He is hilarious. He's got a gajillion stories, and I mean, he's been building motors for like 40, 50 years, something like that. So I highly recommend. His name's Judd Massengill, and he runs the Samtech.
You talked about that earlier, and someone said Judd is hilarious, I think, somewhere.
Hilarious.
Judd is full of great stories, Reaper Mechanic here says.
Yes.
I'm assuming that's exactly who he's talking about.
Yeah, you would have to ask Judd about the story of Yuri. Who is the guy, Yuri? The guy that did the Yinko?
He did
Yuri, what? Yuri Smoking, something like this.
Oh, I don't know.
There's some guy from like the 60s, and him and Judd are in South America running naked through the forest or something. It's something. Smokey Urich, that's his guy's name.
Oh, whenever I hear Yuri, I thought you were saying Yuri. I think of Yuri Gagarin, the first Russian astronaut.
No, the dude with the Yinko, the guy that made the Yinko.
Oh.
And he was a racer, and like Judd knows and he knows like AJ for all the Houston people, and
they're saying Smokey Eunuch.
Yeah, that's not eunuch. I don't think he's a Urich, something anyway.
Eunuch, they're saying.
I don't think it's eunuch, but close.
That's what they're saying.
Okay.
So, as in no genitals, he has a book.
Yes.
So here's we'll break it up with here's a good one. What's the level of importance do you put on back purging stainless?
Yeah, back purge everything if you can. Why not? And it just makes good sound flow, less chances of cracking and all that stuff.
All right, cool. And then,
but on the same, so So here, a couple things about back purging. They don't tell you in school, boys and girls. So I used to make those flasks. I think you got one, Matt.
Yeah, you sent me one. I'm
Yeah,
afraid
I
to
really,
use it. It's a
yeah,
shelf piece. It's
yeah,
beautiful.
it is meant to be a shelf piece. It's not, don't, yes, that's a perfect place for it. Anyway, I used to make those and I back purged and I turned the purge up a little on the high side, maybe 15 cubic feet per minute or whatever, an hour. I think it's CH8. And one time I was welding along and all of a sudden it just puked its guts out on me and I didn't know what, like it just, and once that's just throw it in the garbage because there's no way, this is an aesthetic piece anyway. So it was just trash. And I come to find out I had too good of a seal on the back purge and it was building pressure. And that puddle, once it's, liquefied, it just pushed through that. And when it did, it made a disaster. So always have a place for your purge to breathe to so it can be released and it's not building pressure on the backside. And then also, if you're not doing stuff that people are going to be eating and drinking off of, don't stress that. Like you said, just send it. If you're going to back purge, smash some tin foil on it. You can use those big clamps. You get those big clamp kit, those worm clamp kits from Harbor Freight for a couple bucks, and you can use that to screw the tin foil on to keep it in place. And just run maybe five, just flip the ball up, and it just keeps the sugaring from happening on the back. That's all you need. Don't worry, it doesn't have to be silver and shiny and beautiful. Just keep it from sugaring is the gist of it.
So there is,
or at least that's how I do it.
Yeah. Like I always say, this is my repeatable result for most people.
This is what works well for me.
What is Bob's favorite food?
Gummy bears.
Really?
Yeah, he goes ape shit for gummy bears.
Wow.
We both like gummy. I think this is both of our favorite food is gummy bears.
This one was a bunch of questions all went into this. What's in the works for Monkey Fab in the future? And then someone asks similarly, where is your product line moving and what other platforms are on your drawing board? So I wanted to ask those together.
Yeah. The business was always just kind of to play. Luckily for me, my retirement check, makes the mortgage. So it's not like it's something that's terribly needed. And we've been very blessed with business and customers. So I don't really, I want to do this forever. I kind of like someone to take the business, it was like, maybe like a plant. Like I put the seeds in, did the watering. I'm ready to move on, at some point to the next, the next great adventure. And, we'd be happy to sell this off to somebody or, develop it with somebody that wants to come learn the business and maybe, do like a transfer, buy, rent to own, whatever. But yeah, I don't see me doing this in like 20 years from now.
There's a bunch of good ones coming in from Potato and some other people.
Yes, let's ask funny ones.
He just asked it, and I think it's
funny.
This is
rapid fire from.
It's a funny breakup. What's the biggest hammer that you have in that room, and will you show it to us?
I will show it to you. I will show you both of them.
There's so many welding questions that are specific. I like to throw these in.
So I tell people, always have your workspace organized with what you need at your hand's reach. People will make fun of me because underneath my bench over here, I have probably 10 grinders. And they're like, Mike, I thought you were supposed to be a welder. Ha, 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 ha. But I don't have to change out anything. Like if I need something for stainless, I have exactly what I need to polish, remove, or whatever. But yeah, our hammer situation here is pretty sad. I had a 5-pound sludge and it's just disappeared. So this is all, what is this, 2.5 pounds? Harbor Freight Boy. But this is my favorite one, was the brass hammer from Harbor Freight because it doesn't mar. So I can beat up my stuff and get it bent into the shape I need, and it doesn't scratch or tear the bejesus out of the metal. So Harbor Freight, if you can find them.
Yeah, I think I have a Harbor Freight, like a 3-pound mini sledge, and I have no need for anything else. I mean, the short handle, like medium weight, is actually extremely good. I never find myself needing a 20-pounder that has my leg for a handle.
I occasionally find myself needing that, a 5-pound sledge, but usually it's for yard work, not car work.
Yeah, driving something like a 2x4 into the ground.
Right. Yeah, so what's up with the place, man? Are you looking to expand?
What, me?
Yeah, you got all that land out there.
We need a warehouse to park our cars. So
we've
done so much other house stuff in the last year that we wanted to kind of take a break. So I think this summer,
the place did turn out really nice. Like you and your dad did, especially was it the basement you guys went through and redid?
Oh yeah, Jamie and I just split the cost to have the basement redone. We just had someone come through and pound it all out. So 850 extra square feet in the basement.
Okay, that's nice.
And then, so I think this summer I'm going to get a bunch of estimates and try to figure out what the township will let me do. But I have 2 acres. So I thought about doing a bunch of things, but then everyone's like, that's not big enough. Don't screw yourself. Because if you build a building this size, they're not going to let you build any others. So try to make one gigantic. And then they're like, it'll be so-and-so tens of thousands of dollars. But what you can do is get like the foundation and a pole building, and it's empty. And then even if it's stone and a pole building, you can cement one bay at a time. And Troy is basically talking me into like a 50 by 50. And then you can easily fit like 8 cars 2 deep. And then if you want to, you can do 4 posts and fit 12 cars. And then, so we already have 10.
But how big's the shop now?
Well, she has a 2-car and I have a 2-car, and it's split by this office.
So it's probably 40 by 20-ish?
Well, mine's like a 28 by 28, and hers is like a rectangle.
Okay. So, like 60 by 28-ish. That's a good size.
I mean, it's attached. The garage
is attached to the house?
Yeah, this is all attached.
Oh, I thought it was a standalone for some reason.
No, it's all, my house is a giant L. So all the garage stuff is on the side where the Kmart parking lot is, I always talk about.
Yeah.
That's another thing, like I paid to have the whole driveway redone by Troy and just made bigger in every direction. So I call it the Kmart parking lot, but we need it.
Yeah, that would, I wonder, well, you probably want cement to put the building down. So you can build these buildings, those metal buildings, those metal prefabby boys. You can put one up relative. Like I just had an add-on to the shop to kind of expand. I need 120 by 60, and I'm in a 20 by 30.
Yeah, well, that's why he said just go. He said even if you can only afford the walls, do that.
Right.
And that's why he's saying like if you do. He said even a bunch of companies will do a pole building with no foundation. Like they'll sink, they'll do like the concrete or sink weatherproof wood. I don't really like that idea. I'd rather do on concrete. Right. And then also, I thought of just getting a giant concrete pad and then having something added to it, like steel or pole building, because I don't really want to move my quote unquote shop out there. I have all my stuff in here, and it's nicer, and that needs like solar lights and parking. Like it doesn't need. I'll probably put conduit because it'll be dumb to not put conduit to it to run like garage door openers or whatever. But I don't plan to like run my welder out there or anything. So, but the 12 car space would be nice.
Yeah. You'll have your garage to do the work and then have a place for storage. That's where I'm like, you know how us car guys are. We're always shopping for the next project, even when we have 6 of them.
Yeah, so that's the issue is we're kind of maxed out on space. Like we could fit like 1 or 2 more, but then you can't navigate the driveway anymore. The way we have it spaced, you can get front and back and K-turn around stuff, and any more than this would be pretty annoying, or we'd have to start parking in grass to not completely park ourselves in, and that's not acceptable. I don't want to do that to my neighbors. We already have enough cars, and they don't care. But I'm not going to start throwing them all in the grass.
You need a company that needs some advertising to come and sponsor, do a sloppy storage building sponsorship.
People are saying about how much to budget for a slab, and I knew I was going to budget about 10 grand. But I know people that do concrete, and I would only want 4 inches. And the one guy estimated a 40
That's what she said.
A 40 by 40 slab at 4 inches, I think they said they could do for like 7,500 or less. That was an overestimate, but that's like just over what it cost them. So I kind of want to take advantage of the biggest slab I can afford. And then other guys here are saying like, do the slab after the building goes up, just so you're not screwed. Like if they bring the building out and the slab's too small, you're kind of screwed. So that's what I would ask. I want to get a bunch of opinions from a bunch of different builders. I don't want to waste their time, but I kind of want to make sure I'm getting the smartest thing I can. I don't care if it's wood or steel or whatever, but I just want to get the most space for the economics.
Yeah, these metal buildings you could throw up yourself. Like you could literally buy. You could let, like when we did the addition, I just paid a friend to do it. He had the time and he's smarter than me, but we worked together to put it up, and it was just literally, just tacking some metal together, standing it up, putting the sheet on the outside of it. And then we did the spray foamy stuff, and it was pretty economical.
And that's what people have said to me, that you can have the people that do the building, they'll put it up in 2 days. Max. Yeah. They're just, they slam it out. And I wouldn't do anything fancy.
But you're mostly paying for labor when you're doing that.
Yeah, so I would almost just want walls, and I'll do like garage doors and doors later. Like you can do that anytime when you want to put a door in or whatever. So yeah.
That would be a smart move, is just to put just a roof. Just have them put the roof up. That'd be the biggest pain.
Well, that's what Troy said. Troy said the same thing. Yeah, you can
sheet the sides yourself.
He's like, get a pole thing and then just screw the sheet metal up and then cut your own doors, or pay a garage door company to do one at a time when you want them. And then he even said, have them build it, like he said similarly, do a stone pad and we'll concrete one bay at a time later. So he's like, your cost will never be more than $10,000 at a shot.
Yeah.
And he's like, you'll have a building and you can park in it and it'll be weather tight, but you can just do what you want. Then you're not out $75,000 like that. So yeah. Anyway, enough of that. We'll ask you some car.
I'm the same. I need some land.
Yeah. What do you think about aliens?
What kind of aliens?
I don't know. Generalize that.
They're foreign. They're different. They're definitely alien. So I like Elon Musk's take on it. I think he was talking to Rogan lately, and Rogan asked him the same question. And he said, "Well, they're awfully aloof if they're out there."
Yeah. Mike, what do you think the Phoenix would do in the quarter mile? What do you want to do about your wagon project, and what are your goals for the wagon project?
It just hit me all in the feels, man. Just coming at me with both hands. The Phoenix did like 0 to 60 in 4 seconds. I don't know what that does on the quarter mile. Probably not a lot. I would suspect that it'll probably do 12s. Does that seem right? It should have like it should do 800 horsepower. I'm gonna talk you into tuning it remotely, Matt. So you're gonna get stuck with that.
I tune Cameron's remotely.
Okay, I got a friend that he has a Mustang Dyno. He already talked to him, and he said we could use it. And so we'll let you figure it out. But it's, like I said, a 5.3. It should make 600-700 horsepower.
Well, you said it has a 7875 Gen 2.
Yeah. But the gears aren't real tall, so I got 315s in it with a TH400. So it'll do like 120, 130 in second gear. It does 60 in first gear.
How tall are the tires? Real tall.
275s.
Oh, it should go really fast then.
Mickey sticky boys.
You said it has 315 gears?
Well, theoretically, it'll do 200.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah. It'll probably go like 125 in second.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I thought you said it'll go 120 and high, and I'm like,
no, it'll do like 200-ish.
Yeah, second gear dyno.
Theoretically, I mean, I would never. The car's fucking terrifying.
Yeah. You should,
I take people for a ride in it, and they're scared out of their mind. It's
like
the closest thing to death they've ever gotten.
How much does it weigh?
I mean, it's got to be 3,000, I would imagine. It's a 78 Nova,
So whatever those weigh.
It's got to be like 3,500 probably. I would do like a 373 and a 28-inch tire is a great gearing and tire combo for like 600 to 800 horsepower in that weight car.
A 373?
373 and a 28.
Yeah, I couldn't drive it on the freeway.
Oh.
I mean, it was with the small, like I have 255 Mickeys.
Yeah.
They're like
26.
26-ish, yeah.
Oh,
and
no,
it
27. A 235 is a 26x9.
So those guys will do like about 2,700, 3,000 RPM around 70, whereas with the big tires, it'll cruise about 2,000, 2,200 RPM at 70 on the freeway with the 315s. And that's all I really wanted. I don't, it's fun, but it was supposed to be a cruiser in the first place. That's why it's got the air conditioning.
That's the only thing that'll kill your quarter is the gearing. But
yeah, right. Yeah. And I'm okay with that because I can cruise it from, California to Carolina.
I did similar when I first built my Fairmonts. I would do the 273 Ford gearing. And
now
What's
well,
that?
I'm getting ready to do the Volvo with the 4L80, and I've been listening to you saying that you need a whole lot of fucking gear for that.
It depends on the goal and horsepower again, but I don't know how well you can fit a 275 in a Volvo, but like even my truck, the Colorado and Cameron's Crown Vic have 373s and a 28-inch tire with a 4L80E, and we both. I trapped 147. He's gone a little bit over 150.
How's it do on the freeway?
Well, with overdrive and lockup, it's awesome. It's not bad at all.
I'm looking forward to that.
I think 70 or 80 was high 2000s.
Okay.
So similarly, like you said, 2,700 with whatever speed you're going.
The bad thing about the Volvo is that the frame rail is the back side of the tire space.
I think they have a tight. Yeah. So you
can only get so much tire in that goddamn thing without chopping. And I love that car. Like I want it to be my daily driver every day.
Yeah.
And, and that's why it's staying naturally aspirated. And there's only so much tire you can get under it, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it depends on how fast you want to go with it or just drive it is the whole gear ratio thing I tell people. How much power, how heavy is it? Obviously, if it's heavy as hell, you want to gear it more, or if it has a really tall tire or whatever else.
Yeah, and it's just a fun daily driver. It's something you really enjoy driving, and it's a 6-liter with ported heads and a cam. So it's
going to be all motor.
Yeah, it's decent. I mean, it should be. What, 450, 500?
Yeah, I mean, you might want to gear it up pretty good then, because 4L80E has a long first, and if you're
that's what I'm worried about.
If you want to have it be a lot of fun, I would gear it more than you think you're going to need, because you're probably going to floor it the first time and be like, I should have put shorter gears in this.
Yeah, that's one place where the that sloppy mentality of just do it came into play, because I was so afraid of doing that axle, like cutting it and messing with the gears and the shims and the spacing. I mean, that seems so daunting.
You've seen that video of me building an 8.8 in my bare feet?
In the Colorado?
Yeah, I built the Colorado rear in my bare feet with a Makita cordless impact, and it took me I was filming on my head, and it took me 8 minutes to build the whole rear barefoot.
Yeah.
I'm like, here's what you do, and snap, wrap, and then I'm like, here you go, guys. And that rear in that video was in my Colorado. It's still in my Colorado, whoever the hell owns it now. But it was in my car for those 2-3 years where I just went up and down to 1,000 horsepower and back down. Never made a noise. Of stock axles, stock disc brakes the whole time. And now it's gone through 5 owners. The most recent guy was such a pain in the ass. I posted about it. He hit me on 3 different things of media and then started messaging my wife and everything. And then I was going to reply to him. I was on vacation in Florida with my family. And then he sends me another one hey, if you just don't want to tune it, let me know. And I was like, bro, I'm never tuning anything for you as long as you live. You've been such a huge pain in the ass. In 30 hours, you have sent me 12 messages on 5 platforms and you started bothering my wife. I'm on vacation. Shut the fuck. Like, I just unloaded on him, and I was like, never, ever contact me ever again. Thanks.
Y'all, that's 2 warnings. Don't text Matt. Leave him be.
Just don't be. I think I say enough. Like,
You can send an email to @sloppy.com.
and think about it. I may never get back to you, and I have to say that so your feelings don't get hurt. You know, I just may never have the time to schedule you. I may never have the time. Like, there's some times where I don't tune a car for 2 weeks. I just didn't have the time to get through people. And then what's funny is I'll spend a day at the end of the night here, if I'm not doing this shit or working on my car, I'll go through orders on Shopify, and then I'll start trying to email people back. I'll email 10 people, and all of them are like, it's not even running yet. I just wanted to get on the calendar for 6 months from now. And I'm like, dude, like, when it's running and not leaking fluids and the fan comes on, give me a call then. Like, not, yeah, like, so then I'm like, all right, I answered 10 emails and no one's ready, so why am I doing this? Yeah, anyway.
I'd say, like, most of the phone calls I get, people are usually pretty good. I mean, like, I'm grumpy. I'm not the guy to call and chat like you. You know, I when I see text messages, I get anxiety. When I see PMs, my heart rate goes up, my stress level goes up. But I do enjoy talking to them, and they're great customers. You know, people call, they've done their research, they watched, you know, the videos, the sloppy videos. They've called up Barin, they pestered him, they got all the answers, and then they call me up, and you know, you're going through the parts. So and they have no idea, like, they have no clue what's going on. I know when people call me, they think that they're calling like Summit, you know, like there's some goddamn like office, you know, with people in cubicles waiting to answer. And I'm usually with my what do they call them? Air Pros in.
AirPods.
Well, yeah, welding while I'm talking to people on the phone. Yeah. Just going away. It gives me something to do whilst welding.
Yeah, it's, you know, I don't know. I try to give people that expectation that you may never hear back. You may hear back in 20 minutes. If someone's ready and messages me when I'm going through them at 1 a.m. and the person's like, hey, it's running and it's ready to go and it's on Terminator and I've been driving it for 3 weeks, I'm like, what are you doing tomorrow? It's a Sunday tomorrow and I have no one scheduled. Are you in Allentown? Can you be there tomorrow? And they're like, yep. I'm like, see you there, bye.
Yeah. And that's where you try to get to be. Like, you know, you need to get your car up and running, right? Like,
it has to be running.
Like it needs to be able to talk to the computer. The little sensor boys need to be, you know,
it needs to not be
at you, man.
Man, it did that once before on one of the chats.
Okay. I had you covered. We were discussing about Aristotle and Plato.
I don't know what that. Everyone's like, hire an IT guy, and I'm like, oh, I do 7-hour shows.
Smartasses.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know what it is, but every now and then it dip? It dipped for like 10 seconds. I'm like, did something shut off? What happened?
It's a sign of God, because I swore to myself that I wouldn't let this go past an hour, and we're already at 9:47. So I think that means we got 13 more minutes, and then we wrap it up.
Yeah, I see 2 hours and 49 minutes on my live ticker.
Oh, Jesus. I didn't plan on talking that much at all.
All right, well,
I didn't have anything to say.
I guess
thanks everybody for dropping in, checking out this video.
Yeah, we got
a video about nothing.
We got 10 minutes here, guys. Start firing live ones, and if they're good, we'll ask. The other ones I have are very lengthy about welding and other stuff. Oh,
so let's just reiterate. If you guys go to my YouTube channel, just go to YouTube in the little search area. Not right now. Type in Monkey Fab Garage, I believe, and it should take you to my channel. You see my little logo on Matt's screen over there on the window above the door. It'll look like that. Click on that, and then go to playlists, and then down it'll be a video called or a playlist called How to TIG Weld, and that's got. I mean, I basically tried to structure it in a way that a new person could come in there and learn everything from how to wire the machine to what the different settings on all the machine is. It's very it has its own language, the welding. So you need to learn that, and that video will teach you that language and give you the basic tools you need to know how to turn metal into liquid and glue it together. So do that. So now we got 11 minutes.
All right. This one's stuff about Bob, which we went on at length. Oh, what camera models do you guys both use for YouTube videos?
I ask Matt, and whatever Matt says, that's what we do. So
I believe it's exactly the same one I use for a lot of it. I use my phone. I have an iPhone 8 Plus. I have GoPros that I rarely use, but I like.
Well, you actually sent me your old one when I first started.
Yeah, I had like 5, and I gave a bunch away. I think all I have now is a GoPro 5. The only reason I really like
that was the worst. You like it?
No, the 4 silver was like the worst one I had. I had to send it back like 10 times, and I got it back, and I fired it up, and it recorded in purple. I'm like, okay. Uh-oh, did we lose Mike? Is that his way to peace out? And then I use for a lot of stuff, I have a Sony AX33, and I have an extended battery, and it has image stabilization built in. I don't use the GoPro much other than time-lapse, because I think it does excellent time-lapse. And then my phone. I shoot with my phone an endless amount, so I lost you there for a little, so we went on.
Yeah, I would have trouble with all the audio. I've just had trouble with audio as long as I've been doing this. And yeah, this Sony, I like Sony everything, like you said.
And I have them for like 5-6 years at a shot, and they never skip a beat. So that's why I buy Sony video products, because it literally has never given me an issue ever. Oh, and you can use your phone to turn it on and off, so that's why you're not wasting a bunch of video. And I even have a wrist remote for it.
The little sports cam guy, right? I love those.
Here. So that's the camera, and then it has, look at the size of the battery on it. And this will record like 8 hours of high-def video, and it'll do 60 frames a second for if you're doing fast stuff. And then here's a Sony wrist remote. You can see what's on the camera, and that's where, like, when I'm dynoing cars, I'm just like record, and then when I stop the dyno, I can hit record, and then I don't have 8 minutes of video with a 30-second dyno pull. So
you know, it's funny. It's funny how much money you can waste on that shit, because you don't know if it's going to work for what you need it for. Like, for example, I just bought a pair of aim point glasses. So these are supposed to be for shooting. You put them on, it's got a little camera, and it's supposed to, and my thought being that I can put these on behind my hood and just record welding all day and just post up videos of just under the hood. But the video was just garbage. It was horrible. And it cost, like, you know, I wasted $200 just to find out that, oh, by the way, that doesn't work at all.
Yeah, that's why this is incredible, because it has a microphone in the back and has a stereo mic in the front. And then it might be hard for people to see this, but you open it and it turns on, and you close it and it turns off. And then it has a giant optical lens, and it has what's called, it's got a stabilized lens. Can you guys see that? It looks like a human eye. So if you're shaky or whatever, it does physical stabilization, and then it does image stabilization. So it has all that, and I've dropped it like 1,000 times, and it looks brand new. I think it was $850, but if you can imagine wrecking a bunch of $300 cameras and not being happy with them, this gets very cheap. And these are eBay batteries, and I bought a 2-pack of eBay batteries, and then that came with a charger. So this will last for a week in most case scenarios, and then you just charge the other one, and if this is low at all, I just recassette. It has a fresh battery in it all the time, and the batteries are years old, and they keep working, blah 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 blah. So yeah, that, or what I always tell people is you don't have to buy shit. If you have an iPhone, the iPhone records amazing video. It shits on a lot of these cameras. Just record on that. What people do, though, is they fill the phone with, they buy the smallest memory phone and they fill it immediately. So that's part of their issue also.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the 4K Sony Boy. It's worked brilliantly. And I've had it, like you said, for like a year or two, maybe. And it's like, once you're with par on everything that's generally with everything that's on YouTube, then you're good, as long as the audio is good and the picture is semi-clear. But lighting is a big problem for most people, They just don't have enough lights in their shop.
Yeah,
It looks
that's
really
why
dark.
this does great in all lighting situations too. Also, I'll mention for cars that are loud, if you're talking, the mic works great. And then if similarly you talk and then you point it at a car that rattles the walls and makes 1,000 horsepower, the audio never clips, it never goes out of range, and it'll easily jump between jet and voice talking, and you don't have to equalize the audio at all. It's really incredible, and that's all built in. So
And I got their sport cam too. It's like a little white GoPro kind of thing, and those are great. Yes, that little guy.
I tried it, and then what's cool is you can pair these, and they'll do the same timestamp.
I didn't know that.
So you can pair them, and if you have this on your kid riding his bike and you hit record, it does the exact same timestamp on both cameras. So when you have to stitch, you don't have to line anything up. But I don't use that. I don't need 6 camera angles if someone's rod's coming out.
Right.
One's good enough.
Yeah, I used to put a camera on the welding machine and one on my foot, and then one watching it, and that way you can kind of see what's going on with the weld versus the foot versus the amps, and that I'm just thinking maybe that would help somebody as far as welding's concerned. I got lots of welding videos, and then everything I do, I learned that from you too, is put everything on a playlist, because that way it's easy to organize. And if someone wants to go in and just see welding, they can just see if someone wants to watch all 6 million hours of my boring Phoenix build, they can go right to that playlist and just play it.
That's what people ask about the Colorado, and someone said I didn't realize there were this many, but a guy's like, I just finished watching your 250 video playlist, and I was like, whoa, there was that many videos? Because I think I have
Colorado is out of control because you started with the 1K build, and then dialed it all back.
No,
again.
I started with I wanted to do a response build to have it be fun, and then I started chasing 1,000, and then after I did that, I'm like, what a giant waste of money and not fun that was. So I went back to the Don't BS Me style build, which is what I think is like the most popular thing ever. Because I'm like, that's that whole thing I say every radio show is it's okay to want burnouts and ice cream and not give someone an expectation and not kill yourself trying to go faster than people you don't know. Just toss your kid in and fry the tires to the cords and get a vanilla milkshake and go home. That's fun. That's stuff that you'll remember forever and have fun. And cars shouldn't be a burden. The Skid Factory recently put up a video where he says how like a project car is difficult and it's a commitment and it's like a kid, and he's like, if you're having mental issues, he's like, it's similar to having a child to fix a relationship. You shouldn't start building a car if you're in a bad headspace, because it's going to be time consuming, it's going to be largely disappointing, it's going to cost money, it's going to be frustrating. So if you're in a bad spot, he's like, please don't start a project car because it's going to make you worse, not better. So
yeah, I think that and I think there's something to be said for expectation management when you're going into it, especially if you've just never done this before. If it's your first time, or you've just had like naturally aspirated motors before, it's just like just get a turboed. Don't try to be the fastest. There's always going to be somebody that's the fastest.
Yeah, well, that's why
you're not going to be there long.
That's why I came up with that combo, because what I realized is people don't know what they want. So I'm like, this is what you want, because I knew it would easily make 500 horsepower through an auto as is on pump, and I can't tell you the amount of people. I think half of the people I tune have copied that, and then the other half have tried to do better and don't. So every now and then someone surprises me and they have something incredible, but majority of them are copying what I did, and they're all very happy. A lot of the times now they'll bring a pump gas car that makes good power, and I made that meme yesterday that says like, this is some gourmet shit, and it says 550 on pump and 850 on E85, and that's like a common occurrence. I do lately I've been picking up about 115 rear wheel on ethanol versus gasoline.
Yeah, ethanol is such a, if you have it available, just wow. It's cheaper than the regular stuff. And I like it just for the confidence. Like, I don't know about
the tuning window is gigantic on E85.
I know that it makes it good for you guys to do your magic, and I can say just make it safe. And I know that I'm gonna, as long as that fuel's in there, everything's good.
And with gasoline, I always was just kind of like,
You
I
never
always
know.
felt like,
You could fill up with 91 and it's a tank of 87. Similarly,
right,
like they
yeah,
don't get them right all the time.
yeah, and there's no content sensor to let you know.
Yeah, so like ethanol, a decent amount of ethanol, like 50-ish% is like 108 octane for people that don't know. And then also the alcohol fuel scrubs BTUs, the top ring doesn't
Yeah,
get hot. All of the stuff that really screws you doesn't really happen right out of the box. So that's why people are like, what do I take it apart and gap the rings to? I'm like, what are you going to run on E85? I'm like, don't even take the heads off. Don't touch it. Put the cam in, don't look, and then do valve springs, and then don't ever do anything else if it's going to be an ethanol car. So, well, how much time do you have left?
we got 1 minute left.
Well,
Mr.
we'll just say
Mr.
thanks.
Happel.
We'll say thanks for having Mike and sharing his experience, and we'll say thanks for everybody for watching, and thanks for your
Let me
questions.
say thank you to everybody, you and the Sloppy family out there, the Hennesseys and Bob and Blue and Bell. Deeply appreciate your helping us out and purchasing our products. And we wouldn't be doing this without you guys. So it means a lot to me. Matt, I appreciate you having me on here for the interview, and I appreciate everything you guys are doing. And I hope you keep it up, man.
Thanks for showing us your big brass hammer.
Yes.
Potato R33 says.
Yes, the hammer.
All right, well.
Stop. It's hammer time.
It's 11 p.m. here. What is it there? Is it an
10.
hour or two? Yeah, only an hour. I always think Texas is way back.
You're always welcome, Matt. I keep telling you, man. I'm pretty sure that either me or Vrin would give you a job.
Well, yeah, everybody.
We couldn't be able to pay you anything, but we'd be happy to give you a job.
My buddy Arnie is like moved to Chicago, and I'm like, let's all move to Florida. I'm so tired of the North now. Pennsylvania is awful anymore because we get, like you said, it gets hot and people die. Well, you get like -18 and freezing 40-mile-an-hour wind, and then you get 105-degree summer. People die in the winter, people die in the summer, and then the water gets into our roads, and then it boils, and then it freezes, and our roads are, I think my one friend is like, the roads in Iraq are better than the roads in Northeast Pennsylvania, and I don't know the difference, but I can understand that. He's like, at least it's sand and it's soft. Here it's just completely destroyed concrete and asphalt all day.
Well, so, you're all always welcome in Texas.
All right. Texas was nice when I've been there a few times. It's awesome. It's like Pennsylvania, but flatter.
Yes, it's very flat.
Yeah.
Very flat. And we'll be happy to see y'all. Please tell Jamie I said hello.
Yep.
All right, sir. You have a good evening.
Yep. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Mike. Bye.